At a university hospital, someone was saying they wanted to live, that they desperately wanted to live. The doctor said this was something they had never seen before, and explained that the disease would be named after him. The doctor offered his condolences and said that, in his best estimate, the man had less than a year left to live. That man walked down the street completely devastated. He felt desperate, thinking this couldn't be happening. He thought that all he had done his entire life was work tirelessly, and just when his life was finally starting to improve, he wondered if he was still going to die anyway. Someone shoved him roughly, yelling at him to get out of the street right now because it was too dangerous. The man fell onto the sidewalk, dropping something important from his pocket, and he thought that knowing he had only a few months left to live was incredibly unfair and cruel, especially on the very day he won a huge jackpot in the lottery. Kneeling on that sidewalk, he thought he wanted to live, and that he never wanted to die. Desperate, he thought he would do anything for anyone, so he begged, please. Crying, he screamed once again, begging to be saved from certain death. Elsewhere, someone said they knew that's what they had said, but they hadn't meant it literally, and they were okay becoming something like this. They thought they could have been reincarnated as many different things, but why did they have to reincarnate as a bald skeleton? Not even the worst parts of life could be experienced in this empty body. At that moment, some hideous creatures appeared silently behind him. The skeleton noticed the unexpected approach. He quickly drew his weapon, striking while thinking he would kill them all. But it seemed that something had survived his powerful attack. A massive creature charged at him ferociously with a clear intent to harm. Then, with a powerful blow of its hand, it almost crushed him. But our hero managed to escape in time. From a distance, he watched that monster with his sword firmly in hand, and he thought, excited, that the decisive moment had finally come, that he could finally take care of all this nonsense. So he struck the creature, yelling for it to just die already. With a powerful attack, he landed a direct hit flawlessly, and with his eyes glowing intensely with power, he thought that was the last of them. As the creature was eliminated, he concluded that now they were all dead, and the extermination of the rebel forces was finally complete. After having been reincarnated as a skeleton, nothing more than a lowly creature in the summoned monster class, he eventually evolved into a lich-class undead. He brought prosperity to the demon race, which had been on the brink of extinction, and everyone celebrated excitedly as our hero approached. Our hero thought he might not have any hair, but at least he was a great demon king when someone called out to Zack. Even his name sounded grand and menacing, and everyone gave a salute to their king, Izak. He got a little annoyed and asked how many times he had to tell them that his name was Izak, calling them idiots. Then he said goodbye to those idiots who couldn't even pronounce his name right, and when someone asked where the king was going, he said he was off to collect what he was owed. This was his final goal, one that would allow him to eat again, feel pain, and finally become human. The head of that enormous creature fell to the ground, and everyone at the scene stood shocked and tense. Our hero smiled with satisfaction, the way a skull can smile, thinking this was the divine realm. Then he said that with this, he had taken care of all factions that opposed the gods, and hoped they hadn't forgotten their promise to make him human. People comment, wondering if he really took care of all of them, saying they thought it would take at least 500 years, thinking it was absolute madness. But this was actually a scheme the higher-ups devised to make him a slave for free, and our hero thinks he can hear them. He calmly asks why they're doing this, since the deal was to make him human. Then the god asks if he can still do one more thing for them. Isaac wonders if they really think he's brainless. Annoyed, he says they'll pay dearly for this, gods or not. He questions whether they made him go through all of this without ever having a real way to make him human. They comment that it seems like he figured it out, and another one says that's why he was against it from the beginning. Isaac asks if that's all they have to say, while they wonder why someone even made a contract with him. Our hero says that he's a summoned being, and that he can't die because he's undead, as well as unpredictable, and his abilities make him a threat to the divine. He thinks that if those bastards can't turn him into a human, the gods, frightened, beg him to give them more time and take care of a few more problems for them. And Isaac says that if they can't keep their promises, then they'll pay with their lives, no excuses, and that it's time for all of them to become skeletons just like him. He uses all his power against those mighty gods, but it seems something suddenly goes very wrong. He realizes his mana is vanishing quickly, and that he can't move his body. A god says it's completely pointless. He explains that anyone whose name is written there cannot move. He has a strange kind of bug on him. It's a high-class holy magic used to seal away problems like him, and that he should have been grateful for working for them, and now commands him to live as an insect. Isaac asks if he couldn't have at least chosen a fuzzy caterpillar or something, and the god asks why he's so obsessed with hair. Something completely unexpected suddenly starts happening. The god is clearly surprised, and our hero begins to laugh, offending him. He says he should have been faster and never reveal his hand, and that he'd rather blow himself up than become a pathetic insect. Suddenly, he begins to use his immense power, and in the next moment he causes a massive explosion in that dangerous place. The gods try to recover, calling him a bastard and wondering if he self-destructed. They ask themselves, confused, if the spell really worked. Excited, one of them thinks the spell worked and sealed the soul of the demon king. They comment that with the demon god sealed, they can start regaining their power, and another confirms it. But they can't let their guard down, since they don't know when another disaster might be born, and that he will create a perfect vessel for a saint in the human realm, one capable of exterminating any demon there. One of the gods asks if their lord is alright, and he says not to worry and to select a soul and place it into the saint's body. And as for the insolent skeleton king, he will torture that insect for all eternity. Isaac thinks he must have lost his mind, and being known by the gods, he wonders if he became stupid just for being a brainless skeleton. He questions why it's so bright, and if he can't cover his eyes because he's an insect. He doesn't understand the heat and the humidity or why he has hands now. He realizes it's a human body, so he wonders if he's become human. He realizes they tried to kill him, but something went wrong with the seal, and then someone arrives calling for the Holy One. A woman says the saint opened his eyes. She asks why he woke from his nap, and another says it would have been better if he stayed asleep. Isaac wonders who they are, and if he really did become human, but someone says he can't be helped. The woman says she feels a bit bad, but the man says it's their job and apologizes to him, knowing he just woke up, but that they need him to go back to sleep forever. Our hero is frightened by this, and panics, thinking they're trying to kill him, and wonders why he has to die again. A man with a wicked look apologizes to the Holy One, but says they need to put him to sleep forever. Then he brings a baby bottle to the child's mouth, but the boy seems to refuse the bottle and turns his face away, rejecting every attempt the man makes. The man panics, asking why he won't eat. The baby turns his head and thinks, "Are you kidding me? I just became human, and I'm not eating anything suspicious." While someone wonders how he became human, a man tells him to eat like a baby and sleep soundly, calling him Isaac. He gets startled because the man called him Isaac. He then thinks that this must be another way to pronounce his real name, and wonders if, when they use the magic to banish and seal him for good, maybe they wrote his name in that form, and he figures that must be it. That's the reason he wasn't sealed, and thus he reincarnated into a different body, but with the same name. Excited, he calls them fools, saying they thought they had won but failed to seal him, and wonders what he should do next. But at that moment, someone shoves a bottle into his throat. He tries to resist the bottle while the two people struggle to feed him. The man asks for help with this baby, wondering why he's so strong. Our hero questions the taste, which seems like vegetables, and wonders if they're trying to kill him with this garbage, right after he became human. Suddenly, the baby starts to feel something strange. He realizes that something sinister is slowly entering his body. That is the temple of the sacred Central Empire of Hela, imposing and grand. Inside, a man and a woman walk silently. He thinks about the baby, saying he probably has already met his inevitable end. Someone suddenly says the bishop seems pleased with the situation, and a splendid man appears. He is the emperor of this realm, named Alexander Heathcliff Hela. The clergy bow and say they salute the son of the empire. Then the emperor asks what business they have there. The elder says they came to pay respect to the holy candidacy of the Yeshua house and must be present for the sacred greetings. Smiling, Alexander says the way they speak makes it sound like a burden to be there because of the sacred. The elder says it wouldn't be a big problem if something went wrong again after the candidacy was entrusted to the holy faith. While he was apologizing, saying he had no idea, someone screams, interrupting and catching the emperor's attention. Someone screams in desperation, saying something terrible has happened to the young master. People begin running frantically down the corridor, shouting for the young master. The emperor forcefully opens the door, nervously asking what happened to the young master. One of the maids, tense and visibly frightened, begins to say something about the baby, and the emperor immediately tenses, waiting anxiously for the information. In the end, she says he's very cute, telling them to look at how big his belly is, that he must have eaten very well, and emphasizes that he's a little angel. She adds that he already had 15 bottles of vegetable juice, leaving the bishop in disbelief, thinking it's impossible. The old man silently wonders how he's still alive, even after drinking all that. Terrified, he quickly thinks that isn't ordinary vegetable juice. A few minutes earlier, our hero thought he could feel something strange. He felt that something evil was slowly entering his body and tried to figure out exactly what it resembled. Then, in the next moment, he finally reached a conclusion. He believed it was the sacred poison that destroys the holy power of clergy members, and that it doesn't take effect immediately, but accumulates in the body and becomes lethal. However, this poison is made from demonic mana, and since he was once the demon king, it's all fine. He thinks that giving something made of demonic mana to someone like him is absolutely wonderful, and that he's going to devour all this mana-infused baby food. So he starts screaming and crying in the crib, thinking that he wants more bottles, and the man, confused, asks if he's asking for more. Excited, the man says he's happy to give more, and says the poison won't have an immediate effect, quickly correcting himself to vegetable juice. Our hero feels thrilled, thinking it's a perfect absorption of mana, and that everything's going smoothly. Lying there, he calmly wonders what he should do from now on. He begins to slowly enter a world beyond his conscious mind, and he sinks deeper and deeper into that place, heading straight toward the original source of it all. Then he begins to form his mana core, happily bouncing around inside, thinking this place is safe and protected. He starts doing his work, telling himself that now he needs absolute focus, putting all the mana he absorbed entirely into this mana core. He needs a mana core to use magic in the future, so he's preparing it now but suddenly gets scared, thinking it's an explosion. Curious, he wonders what that is, and that a mana core should be one of the 3 primary colors. Then he questions why the core is white. The color isn't the issue, but rather how the power inside the core isn't fully formed. Smiling, the baby says this is beyond his expectations. He approaches the light, wondering how many blessings his body contains and if cultivating this well might make him capable of many things, including becoming a monster far greater than anyone initially imagined. The boy clearly shows that Isaac will definitely survive. The desire that lived deep within the soul of Ice Canny will live on, because nothing else really matters. In the end, that became the genesis of the Skeleton King, and the boy will create original buffs and unique skills. The spells were absorbed into this new body. A pair of servants wonder if Isaac has passed away, and someone else asks to check. To prove he's alive, the little boy raises his arm and points at the ceiling while the couple doesn't understand anything. Excited, the boy wants another bottle. Back to the present, the Emperor is relieved that nothing bad happened, but the baby knows he was nearly assassinated. Isaac doesn't fully understand why the bishop is looking at him with such a strange and suspicious expression. Maybe it's simply because there are several baby bottles scattered all over the floor. I can't afford to be suspicious of anything right now, the boy thinks to himself. The best thing to do now is to act like he really knows nothing. Frustrated, the bishop is completely confused about how the child is still fine. With the amount of energy ingested, he should definitely have kicked the bucket, but the damn kid is calmly smiling. An old man says there's nothing they can do about him, that House Yeshua was the right hand of the Emperor. He drops his goblet to the ground, spilling all the liquid, and a man says he probably died before they even got there. He adds that they just need to check the body, and with a slightly crazed look, he says the saint can only come from one place. This is the cardinal and leader of the Barrett cause. His name is Hire Barrett, and he declares that the saint can only come from House Barrett. The old man thinks to himself that he said the baby must die. He asks why the child is still alive, and says that this cannot happen. The Emperor looks at the baby and says he's interesting, pointing at his blonde hair, and he says the founder of his empire had the same hair color, while someone tells His Majesty she cannot speak such blasphemy. The hero realizes at that moment that that man is the Emperor. The Emperor says the baby is closer to God than even the Pope, and that he must be the final candidate for sainthood. Isaac is shocked by the information that he's the candidate for sainthood. The bishop becomes tense and says the Emperor has started to favor the child, and he can't let this continue. So he asks His Majesty for permission to inspect the child, and the man asks why, and in what way it will even be relevant. The old man explains that something is strange, and says there's no way a baby could finish those vegetable juices, and the Emperor asks what's so strange about that. Our hero wonders how the Demon King could become a candidate for sainthood, while the bishop insists it's still suspicious, and asks for permission to inspect him. Then the Emperor says someone from House Yeshua is arriving, and that he can proceed once they're here, while our baby expels something, clearly realizing he can't digest that dangerous demonic energy. Frightened, he quickly wonders if he's really been caught, and the bishop watches him closely, calling out to His Majesty urgently. He firmly and directly states that he sensed demonic energy coming from that strange child, and comments that it's extremely odd, while thinking to himself that he's a bastard. Our innocent baby quietly wonders if the bishop actually noticed. He says this baby might be a false candidate, and that an inquisitor must investigate him immediately, and our hero becomes worried. His Majesty asks how he dares, since he's talking about a candidate for sainthood, but the bishop says there's no reason to worry. Smiling, the old man says the Pope has already selected the child from House Barrett as the saint. The man thinks that choosing a child from his own house is shameful, while our hero realizes that's why they're trying to get rid of him. Taking the baby out of the crib, the old man says that now, he will order a priest to summon an inquisitor, while our hero curses the old man. But suddenly, the Emperor extends his arm and commands him to wait. He says that House Yeshua is the closest ally of the imperial family, and as Emperor, he strongly suggests that the child be reevaluated later. The old man says he understands, Your Majesty, and that in that case, he will speak with the Pope. The Emperor thinks he mentioned that he'll delay the prince's coronation ceremony only until the selection of the Holy One, that he plans to officially not acknowledge his own son unless he agrees with his choice for the saint. Our hero realizes this is the holy sea's intention, and internally calls the bishop every curse in the book. But at the end of the day, he doesn't want to be a saint candidate, because it's too risky that his true identity might be revealed. Then the bishop adds that otherwise, they can inspect the boy right now, using his sacred art of exorcism. If he is truly human, there's no reason to be alarmed, and if he is a demon, he will be exterminated. Then suddenly, our hero lifts his bottle with force, hitting the bishop square in the face. The bishop is seriously injured and spits out some broken teeth, while our little baby looks quite satisfied with his impressive feat. Our hero starts uttering several baby words, but deep down he's calling him an arrogant bastard, and says he'll play his little game with him. The bishop suffers from the blow, wondering how a simple baby bottle could hurt that much. He questions whether this light could be holy power, and that the boy might truly be the saint. He can't believe he actually felt some sacred power in him. Our hero holds his bottle again, smiling, and strikes the bishop squarely a second time, asking in his baby language what he thinks of that. He begins to repeatedly bash the tired old bishop. While the bishop suffers deeply and thinks that this has to be Mana, the emperor seems quite satisfied with that entire bizarre situation. Our hero thinks he's going to harden the bottle and deliver the final blow, all while pretending to be an innocent baby. When our baby questions what that bastard thinks of this, someone suggests the bishop must be admiring his sacred power. Isaac looks at the bottle, wondering what it is, because every time he uses mana, he also feels a small amount of sacred power. He knows that mana and sacred power are incompatible and cannot be used together, and he believes this might have something to do with his white mana core. Then finally, the bishop grabs that baby bottle and screams, declaring with all that he is that this child is a heretic. The old man says he must be exorcised immediately, while our baby thinks he's a damn piece of shit. Yes, our hero calmly says he didn't intend to go this far, but it's fine for now. It's clear he's hiding something strange and interesting in there. The old man immediately becomes tense about all of this. A powerful high-ranking demon is firmly sealed within an ancient totem. The old man thinks that it uses the characteristics of a demon that devours other demons' bodies to absorb mana, and that he had kept it with him to use against demons. He wonders, confused, how that boy managed to find it so easily. He clearly senses something strange behind him silently. Isaac commands that everyone watch closely, and says all of this is because he kept coming after him. Suddenly, something strange happens with that dark and mysterious entity, and moving his finger calmly, he says these are the direct consequences of the bishop's actions. A huge and menacing demon appears, while the people present are visibly terrified. Our hero is unexpectedly quite thrilled by all of it. Suddenly, a creature appears in the place and someone screams, asking how a shadow lich could be there. The emperor shouts, asking what the hell the bishop is doing, how he could let a demon run loose in the temple, and asks if he's lost his mind. The bishop, tense, says it was the baby who pulled it from the totem, and the emperor says that a totem is an object meant to seal a demonic beast. How could it bring it back to life? Then he gives the order for everyone to protect the young lord from both the demonic beast and the bishop. Our hero makes a silly little face at the old man, who is stunned and wonders how this could have happened. Isaac thinks that soon he'll see just how good this bishop really is. That strange shadow creature begins to speak, saying that it must kill without hesitation. Then he explodes in sudden rage, shouting that the saint must be killed immediately. This clearly leaves our hero completely surprised and confused. Then the monster charges violently toward our little baby, while the soldiers urgently shout for them to protect the young lord now. Our hero questions what's wrong with this, since he saved its life and that monster is still trying to attack him. But in the next moment, he tries to calm down, because he believes the paladins will be ready to protect him. Then he questions whether he really is a fully fledged paladin, while the creature made of shadows charges forward without stopping, screaming to kill the saint and save the captured king. The battle continues, and our hero thinks he should subdue that thing first. He figures no one will notice if he uses magic in a situation like this. Then the monster finally reaches him, and he wonders why everyone keeps trying to kill him in this life. He thinks the monster is trying to kill him even though he was the one who revitalized it. He then decides to use his power in that moment, calling that creature a foolish and insignificant demon. The creature seems to not quite understand what's going on. Meanwhile, our baby continues to unleash his powerful magic, which manifests as sacred and pure magic. That intense golden energy completely fills the entire room, leaving the emperor and his soldiers extremely surprised and confused. The magic slowly starts affecting the creature made entirely of shadows, and in the next moment, it simply begins to break apart piece by piece. One of the soldiers says that the horrid demonic beast is retreating rapidly. Someone comments that this is definitely sacred power, and that young Lord Isaac forced that great demon to flee. A soldier says that was incredible considering his age, and another says it was expected of the young lord. Our hero looks at the energy in his hands and confirms that it really is sacred energy. He doesn't understand why, since he had already used all his mana. He wonders if maybe this strange body transformed his mana into sacred power. He questions how he managed to accumulate mana, since the Holy Empire no longer possesses mana, while the bishop orders the fools to take their hands off him. The bishop screams that this baby is a heretic who uses demonic powers and demands to know how they dared bring him into the Holy Empire. He says he'll prove it to his majesty and uncover his true identity with an exorcism. The emperor says that's enough and asks how he dares accuse an innocent candidate for sainthood, and that on top of that, he allowed a demon to roam free in front of the imperial knights, and says that under no circumstances will he let this matter go, even if the bishop is from the Holy See. The bishop becomes tense, thinking that if the emperor starts suspecting anything, he may also discover something about the infiltrator. If that happens, the Holy See will be in trouble, so he begins to take action. That old man thinks that if he has to die to take responsibility, then at least he'll keep his family safe. Determined, he thinks that's why he must at least kill the candidate for sainthood from House Yeshua and summons a sacred creature. That wolf starts charging fiercely toward our brave baby. Isaac thinks that bastard finally showed his true hidden colors and wonders if he really thinks he can kill him with something so weak. As the creature rushes toward him, he suddenly realizes something important. He becomes tense when he notices he has no mana left. Suddenly, a blue energy bursts into the silent room, and it strikes the ferocious sacred wolf directly. A man asks how he dares lay a hand on the direct heir of House Yeshua. The surrounding soldiers are surprised, calling him Blue Faith and saying these are the Knights of Eshua. This is the seventh son of House Eshua, named Relay Eshua. The man gives the order for the bishop to be executed immediately, and the soldiers agree to the command. The bishop shouts for them to get their hands off him, and that the filthy hands of Eshua won't touch him, while our baby seems puzzled by that name. He feels like he's heard that name before, while Relay tells them to show proper manners. Then he says to welcome the young master of House Yeshua. He apologizes to Isaac for arriving late, and our hero is impressed by how he seems even better than an imperial soldier. Gently he says it's not much, but he brought a small gift for him with affection. Our hero wonders if that's gold. Could it be a valuable gold bar? Excited, the soldier says it's a doll of the Skeleton King being symbolically defeated. That leaves our hero a bit surprised by the gesture. He says one of the Skeleton Kings is being burned, and another is being crushed by the saint, while everyone says the young master is adorable. Isaac seems to get a little desperate, and wonders how he's supposed to live in a house this crazy, while they keep saying he's cute, and that he's crying because he liked it so much. The soldiers get excited, saying the little lord really likes those figures, and our hero wonders how he'll survive in this insane family. But he keeps thinking about that name Yeshua, trying to remember, and he finally manages to recall something, that it's the generation of saints who will eventually bring about his end. He remembers a young man saying he's the 45th saint of the Yeshua family, then remembers another saying he's the 61st saint of the Yeshua family. He recalls that they were all named Yeshua something, and that he's not only a saint candidate, but also part of the saintly bloodline. He wonders what sins he committed in his past life, when suddenly someone curses the Yeshuas. One of the knights tells the bishop to be quiet, and he yells that he knows they're all bastard heretics, demanding to know where they got that creature. And he screams that he'll uncover his identity. He goes on, saying that to bring that monster there, the Yeshuas must have gone insane, and that this will be the end of the Yeshua bloodline. But in the next moment, the bishop is struck by an attack. Relay tells him to be grateful for their mercy in sparing his neck after speaking such nonsense. Our hero thinks he might be useful, since he attacked him just for insulting his family, wondering if he really has the confidence to stand up to the Holy See. A soldier says the young lord heard terrible things, and another young man says he should only hear and see good things, while our hero still thinks this is a crazy family. Isaac now remembers that these blue Yeshuas are really strong. He remembers his subordinates used to lose their minds just from seeing one of them, while they play around with the Skeleton King's head. The Emperor says it seems he owes the boy a debt, then calls for Sif Relay. He asks if he would tell the head of his family that the royal palace would like to raise the boy, but the man says that His Majesty's jokes go too far, while our hero realizes the imperial palace has its eyes on him. The Emperor says he knows the Holy Empire is targeting the boy both internally and externally, and that while it's true the Yeshuas are powerful, he questions whether the current Blue Faith has what it takes to protect this child. Our hero tries to sneak closer to listen in on what they're saying, as the Emperor says the Pope will disapprove of him, and that his hair is the symbol of his ancestry. Someone comments that, on top of that, the Skeleton King seems to be after him, and our hero gets tense wondering why he himself would be after him. The knight apologizes to His Majesty and says that this child is from his own bloodline, so he must be raised by his family, and concludes by saying they can deal just fine with either the Pope or the Skeleton King. He says that if they can find the Skeleton King again, the previous Saint Melissa will be happy, and His Majesty says he supposes so. Then he asks how he could allow the direct descendant of Melissa to go to the imperial palace, while our hero wonders who Melissa even is. He wonders if it's the Melissa he fought before going to the divine realm, the crazy saint who was the hardest to deal with. He concludes that he's a saint candidate in a family of saints, and at the top of it all is Melissa, whom he descends from, and wonders why his life is like this. But what exactly is sainthood? The gods, who had lost to the Skeleton Kings several times, wanted to win just once, so they came together and created the ultimate weapon, a mace sent by the gods to destroy evil. People began to believe the Skeleton King's days were numbered. That person possessed offense and defense nearly equal to the gods, the survival instincts of a cockroach, divine beauty, among other important traits. But no one counted on the Skeleton King being a creature without any mercy. He said he had never killed a saint, and that this wasn't ideal anyway, since the power would return to the gods and they'd send an upgrade. However, the last saint, named Melissa, was truly powerful, and he now thinks this Melissa is his ancestor. Relay says that a saint lives solely for the purpose of destroying the Skeleton King. He says his family produces many saints and carries the will of the gods, so they are a very proud family, and concludes that they can protect the child. The soldiers say he is right, and that numerous saints were martyred by the skeleton, while our baby thinks he hasn't killed anyone. The tension rises since the Skeleton King banished a saint to a labyrinth for not being deemed worthy of battle, and someone regrets having sent her. The man tells the child it's alright, that he's heard the stories, and says there's no problem if he ends up cursed, but our baby thinks he isn't. He says they are thankful for his birth, and that they only ask one thing from him, that he doesn't grow up to become something horrible like the Skeleton King. Our hero feels a bit uneasy about that, and mentally apologizes for being a bad person. His Majesty asks the knight to reconsider, because it's already been 150 years since the Skeleton King was sealed, and our hero is surprised by that information. She says that demons have grown stronger since then, and having the saint is important for the Holy Empire, so it would be important for him to stay in the imperial palace. And beyond that, there are no more saints from House Yeshua at the moment. It's been a year since the saint gave birth to the boy and vanished with his father. The boy is very surprised to realize that his mother was a saint. The knight confirms that's true, but that the matriarch is still alive and can protect the boy, and our hero thinks there's no bigger surprise than finding out his mother is a saint. Someone comments that Melissa intends to destroy the subordinates of the Skeleton King, and it seems she'll return soon, being the matriarch's granddaughter. His Majesty says it will take some time before she returns, and that the boy seems a bit strange, and the knight ends up agreeing he really is. Our baby wonders how he feels knowing his great enemy is alive, and now he's afraid Melissa might recognize him and find him. So he comes to the conclusion that to survive, he makes a cute little face, begging the emperor to take him, and the man gets all excited over his young lord. Happily, he tells the knight that the baby wants to go to the imperial palace, and the knight says he's just attached to his majesty. He explains that the imperial palace can provide everything the young lord needs, and her majesty says she has no experience raising the saint child. Relay says he'll become an exorcist knight who will banish evil, and that his family produces great exorcists, and that it'll be the palace's first time as well. Then the two men grab the little baby's arms, arguing over which place would be better for him, and the soldiers worry the baby will be split in two. In the middle of all that confusion, our hero thinks he wants to go to the imperial palace. And there's something else he thinks as he watches Her Majesty looking tense. He remembers that the emperor once emitted a powerful sacred light, so his chances of survival with them would be greater. He believes he can't miss this opportunity, while the emperor says it was a wise choice as he looks at the baby. Our hero is suddenly surprised by something. Somewhere else, the bishop says he's innocent and that the child used mana, adding that he definitely created a demon. A man says that sacred power comes directly from the gods, and asks if the bishop is saying that the gods gave holy power to a mere demon. Scared, the bishop insists he's sure it was mana, and asks how he could confuse one for the other. Then, showing no emotion at all, the man says the holy city has a name for this kind of talk, and strikes the old man without mercy while he screams for his eminence. Still without any reaction, the man finishes by saying it's called blasphemy. One of the hooded figures says they should form an assassination squad again, but the one who appears to be the leader says it's not necessary since the emperor has taken the child. He adds that they'll have plenty of opportunities in the imperial palace, and that they've waited for the baby, and this time he won't survive. That hooded group continues talking calmly among themselves. Elsewhere, a beautiful day begins to rise slowly, and our baby thinks that, well, now backslash, he's definitely going to Yeshua. While those hooded ones wonder why all of this is happening. A few days ago, he was wondering what all that shining light was, and also why it was so strong, while the knight said that Yeshua is not a good place for a child to grow up. Relay says his majesty must think this is a house full of mana cores and demon bodies, while our baby focuses on that powerful light, but that the most precious thing they possess is simply the body of the Skeleton King. Our baby is shocked to learn that they possess his body. Then our baby thinks he should have started with that information and grabs the man's finger, which leaves him a bit surprised. He tries to make a signal so his uncle will notice, and puts on a cute face, thinking to himself that he wants to be taken to the Yeshua. The knight gets all emotional over his little nephew, and back in the present, he thinks it's like giving up his life at the palace to join the army, but the important thing is to recover his body, because that body was refined and filled with mana to be able to face the gods. If he gets it back, a rank 10 would be nothing. This was the first time he saw the origin light shining so brightly, which means that following his uncle is a great advantage for his survival. The young man asks why the forces of the Holy See are still targeting the young master, and our hero also thinks he's curious why this is such a big deal. Relay says it's because the gods made a prophecy that the saint would be taken as a child of the gods. The guy asks if that means he could become the next pope, and Relay says that's why the House of Barrier is so desperate about it. The pope is a powerful cleric who can use rank 10 holy spells, basically the king of clerics and paladins, and his power rivals that of the emperor himself. Our hero thinks that the House of Barrier has produced popes for thousands of years, and now if they lose that position to a saint, it would be a tragedy. So everyone is trying something. Suddenly, something catches the boy's attention. Relay asks what happened to a simple man, who says they've arrived at the location, but that they've encountered a problem. The man seems very tense. Up ahead, armed men apologize and say they can't let them enter the duchy. Our baby wonders what's going on now, and Relay gets furious, asking if they don't recognize the insignia of his family, questioning how they educate their people. The man replies that of course they won't let them in, because they must eliminate the child who bears the blood of the saints. Someone shouts, asking if they're demons, and thinks he's sure he forbade attacks on human territory and wonders if this is the new demon king's fault. The demon orders the foolish humans to listen, saying their glorious king has ordered that the saint must be killed. That's when our hero realizes there's a new king, at least until the demon says that under the command of their great king Isaac, they will kill the saint. The baby thinks he didn't tell them that, while the demons say that if they hand over the child, they might spare their lives. But at that moment, one of the demons is disintegrated by a powerful energy. The remains of that creature fall to the ground as one of the demons calls the knight a cowardly paladin. Furious, he asks if the demons dare to speak such things in front of him, the exorcist of Yeshua, and says they will not die an easy death. He points his sword and tells them to listen well. With the purpose of protecting all the small things in this world, the Ishua will destroy all evil. The knights prepare for battle, saying they'll hunt them to the depths of hell and destroy every one of them. He says that this wretched skeleton king forces his subordinates to die just to avoid his own death. The demons grow enraged, calling them foolish humans and asking how they dare. They attack the paladins, saying not to insult their king Isaac and that everything will be done for the rebirth of Lord Isaac. The knights prepare for combat. Then one of them leaps to dodge an attack, apologizing to his young master. Our hero is surprised, asking what the hell is going on and who is pretending to be him. The man arrives with the child in the forest and asks him to wait there for a moment. He casts a protective barrier spell and says he'll return soon. Isaac realizes that even high-ranking demons wouldn't be able to break this thing and that it's truly impressive. He sees that indeed, nothing from the outside can get in, but also nothing from the inside can get out. So he believes it's a perfect time to activate and unleash his magic. He thinks that his call must be heard by the one who is alive and magical. He adds that he is the observer of whispers. The creature becomes emotional upon seeing its great lord, calling him master, and Isaac tells it to be quiet or they might get caught. The emotional demon says he thought he'd never see him again, and the baby says he thought he'd be devastated for sure too, but that he arrived just in time, and that this creature was one he created because he couldn't worry about magic detection in the middle of a fight. At some point, it gained consciousness and became kind of cute. The creature says the master is as evil as always and congratulates him for stealing the body of a child. It says those divine, filthy bastards dared to touch him, but our hero asks it to calm down and just search for enemies. So the creature begins its enemy detection and expands its power in a 100-meter radius from where it stands. It reports a total of 88 demon enemies and says they won't be able to lay a single finger on him. Our hero wonders if a war is starting. Isaac thinks it could be problematic to summon his allies if the territory's security increases, and figures he'll have to deal with them himself before being discovered. And even if he has to use all the mana he's accumulated so far, he'll have to handle it. The creature suddenly detects something and updates the enemy count to 5. It says the enemies are being rapidly eliminated, and now only 3 remain. One of the soldiers says something is approaching, and Relay orders a defensive formation. Then suddenly the enemy count becomes 4, and one of the demons says that finally his companion has arrived. Excited, he tells them to work together, and that today they will succeed in killing the saint. As the demon screams glory to the skeleton king, he is struck down by his own companion. The paladins are surprised and alarmed by this act. Excited, the observer says there are no enemies left, but that he has detected a shadow lich. The creature asks if it was they who dared touch his king with their filthy hands, and says they will pay with their lives. Our baby becomes desperate, wondering what's up with this guy. That creature calls him its king, its master, its everything, and says they dared to trap him in the body of a humble child, and because Isaac was the one who set him free, all its devotion exploded toward its master. It demands that they not look at this child with their disgusting eyes, and adds that it will rip those eyes out. A soldier asks what the creature is saying, but the humans can't understand because it's speaking another language. The observer says it's really a mess in here, and our baby says it looks like the lich realized he's the skeleton king, and that its efforts are admirable. Then the knight gives the order for everyone to prepare for battle, while our hero wonders what the lich is doing showing itself like that. Isaac starts yelling at him not to touch his lifeline or his super valuable mana core. The knight shouts for Master Isaac to hold on a little longer while he handles this, as the shadow creature simply laughs. The monster is thrilled that his master acknowledged him and says that his guiding light has recognized him, while the knight says it's showing hostility. Then, in a lightning-fast leap, the creature charges between the knight's ranks, saying it's going straight to its master. Relay realizes the thing is heading directly for the baby. The creature calls them filthy holy knights and asks how they dare keep his king in such a filthy place, and our hero gets excited for having caught its attention. He thinks he can't let his mana core be exercised, and in his baby language asks it to break the protection barrier. The creature approaches, thinking it has a duty. Then it attacks the barrier with full force, saying it received his command. The knights become alarmed as the barrier starts breaking. Our hero says it was a job well done, satisfied, then tells it to stop making this mess and go rest, leaving the creature a bit confused. Then it starts crying for its master and begins to vanish, asking why. The knights are surprised, asking how that could have happened. Some time later, our baby stands all cute in front of that demonic hand, and the knights wonder how he managed to trap it in a totem. The knight is thrilled that he managed to do it on his first try, celebrating and saying it's amazing. They say this is a type of magic that only someone powerful or a cardinal could use, while our hero thinks he didn't use holy magic, only mana. Relay thinks it's definitely a totemization spell, and finds it strange that despite being a high-level spell, he couldn't sense any sacred power. Then there's the fact that the creature ran straight toward him, probably felt threatened and wanted to eliminate the source of danger quickly. When the soldiers say they're sure their young master is wonderful and absolutely believe he's a saint, Relay thinks nothing happened until the demon arrived and focused on the child, and even if he's not a saint, there's definitely something special about this boy. He gets tense and wonders why it had to be a boy. He thinks it might have something to do with the Skeleton King's curse, but decides he'll handle it himself. That man says that as the captain of the Blue Order, he will protect Isaac's future, who will become the future of the Ishua. Riley is a bit surprised by this, then smiles, thinking he was a fool. He says he was only afraid of the Skeleton King's curse, but that this baby will elevate his family's name. So he picks up our hero and says it's time to go home, and that his uncle will teach him many things. He says he has great talent, so he will grow up and become a holy knight, while our baby thinks he just wants his body back and to go home. The knight continues, saying that even if he doesn't live long, they'll keep him safe no matter what it takes. And that worries our hero. He says his name will spread across the distant continent, but our hero thinks he said something a bit disturbing, while Riley says he knows he loves it. He explains that once they get home, his uncle will teach him how to curse the Skeleton King. Isaac thinks these Eshuas are a bunch of bastards. Some time later, they arrive at the Eshua Duchy. Our hero is impressed by how beautiful the place is. He says these are the bastards who fought the Skeleton King but live a high-class life of luxury, wondering how much it all must cost. He remembers his demons begging for food and gets irritated, thinking they're a bunch of bourgeois, remembering how hard he worked to feed 2 children. The observer says this is a completely different level compared to his old palace, and that just selling 1 statue could buy a new castle. The baby tells him to shut up. His uncle says this is the Ishua residence, and that this is where exorcism and monster hunting first emerged on the continent. He opens a door and tells Isaac to watch. He explains that when he grows up, he'll be like one of those boys. The youths there are beating up a dummy representing the Skeleton King. Very enthusiastically, they yell for that Skeleton King to die, cursing and insulting him in the process. It's actually a little violent. His uncle proudly smiles as the youths shout for the skeleton to die, and our hero questions what they're teaching their kids. But in the end, he thinks none of that matters, because now that he's infiltrated the Holy Empire, he'll be able to take revenge for all of it. His companion thinks it's extreme to hold a grudge against children, but the baby tells him to shut up. The observer is ordered to search around, and uses his power to see deeper into the area, becoming impressed by what he finds. Isaac says it's wonderful, all these mana cores, and that there are dozens of them there, and the observer says it's the first time he's seen so many in one place. Someone tells the young master that they've arrived. His uncle gives the order to prepare his room, saying Isaac will stay with him. The butler apologizes and says he was ordered to guide the young master to the annex. He goes there and asks why. He explains that the 5th young master said never to bring Master Isaac to the main building, and our hero wonders why this is happening now. He worries that Isaac is being sent to a cursed place where he'll meet his end. Our baby thinks this family is doing just great. He says this doesn't make much sense. The baby thinks he could live in the mansion, so why is he being sent to the annex? His companion says the mana core is in the annex, which makes him tense. He orders the man to step back and says he won't allow his nephew to stay in a haunted place like that. But deep down, Isaac actually wants to go to the annex. He tells him to go to his room and says he'll read bedtime stories about how the saint defeated the Skeleton King, and then teach him about exorcism methods. A man appears and asks why he's causing trouble over a homeless child. He says he's sure it was he who ordered the child to be sent to the reserved annex. If after disappearing for a while he dares to side against his brother, he'll act immediately. 5th son of the Eshua family, Goel Eshua, powerful. Our hero is surprised by that strong young man. Observing him, he thinks he's a true assassin. The man orders them to put the child down, saying he'll be taken to the annex. Goel says he's a descendant of the Ashleys, and that this must be a joke. There's no point in sending him to a place for exiled people. The man tells him to step aside and says he's going to read Skeleton King stories to the child, while Isaac wishes to be put down and sent to the annex. His brother asks where he even got the skeleton of a child in the first place. Isaac thinks he likes how the guy wants to send him to the annex, but wonders if he's a member of the clergy or just a delinquent. But it doesn't matter, he wants to go to the annex and retrieve his mana core. He asks if the man thinks he doesn't know why he's sending him there. He wants people to think the boy is cursed, because he wants an out of containment, while our hero feels a little frightened by this information. You think you'll drain this house dry, become the saint, and then rise as pope, getting revenge on those damned gods. Goel asks if that's what he wants people to believe, and says he heard that a demon came looking for this child, so he must be cursed. The soldiers protest. One soldier says if the demon was after him, it means he's important, and another supports him, saying he has sacred powers and is a saint. The man laughs and says he's in tears, asking how many efforts they made to cover up this pile of trash. Then he tells him not to mess with him, and if he wants to be called the next saint, he should show his powers. The observer asks why he doesn't just do that. He doubles down, saying that if he wants to be called a saint, he turns to a tree and points at it. He explains that it's the symbol of his house or whatever, and suggests that if he's going to try something, why not attempt to revive what their lord loves so much? He says that sacred tree died due to demonic mana, and if he truly has what it takes to be a saint, reviving it should be easy. Riley asks if he's hearing himself, and our hero thinks Melissa fought really well, but her descendants are a mess. He concludes that her first child vanished and her second was adopted. Both he and the observer are surprised by something. Our baby grabs his companion and asks what he's thinking, then throws him away, ordering him to go fetch, while the creature begs him to wait. Relay says the tree has been dead for 70 years and asks if they expect a child who can't even speak to do something about it. Then suddenly, something catches the attention of both men. They're surprised by something strange happening to the sacred tree. All of a sudden, that tree comes back to life unexpectedly. What day is it that even with healing and purification magic, it kept dying slowly? Goel asks what exactly happened, while our hero proudly thinks it was nothing. The observer says he found a little dark mana near the roots and carefully absorbed it. A soldier asks what Lord Relay did to the tree and how, but the man says he did nothing. The soldier is shocked to think it may have been the baby at that moment. Our hero says it was all of his mana and that it was a waste. Then the observer asks if he wants him to vomit it back up. Everyone around celebrates, saying Lord Isaac did it. The fifth brother says they're all insane bastards and that no one in this house was capable of doing it. How could a brat like him manage that? He insists someone must have helped him, while everyone around just keeps cheering, saying it was his first purification. The man insists that Relay must have done it, but he asks what the guy is talking about. That young man attacks him, saying he must have helped the saint and made it look like that brat did it, and Relay keeps asking what the hell he's talking about. While the two men fight each other, our hero thinks that Melissa should focus more on her own household and less on the demons. He evaluates the two of them, thinking that the other guy doesn't resemble her at all, but he could believe it if someone said Relay was Melissa in disguise. The observer asks if he might be a half-brother, and our hero is surprised by the idea, thinking he actually looks more like the bastard Pope. Goel yells, telling him to stop pretending he doesn't understand, and says he plays these dirty games even though he knows their house already has a saint candidate. Isaac wonders if there's more than one saint candidate in the house, and concludes that he wants the other one to win. The observer says he seems excited to compete with someone. Relay asks if he should step aside, saying he's the boy's uncle and son of the first brother, so he has the right to lead this house. His brother laughs and says that's nonsense, that his first brother ran away when the house was in danger. He asks if he's really claiming that the bastard who abandoned them and just now found out he had a son is his first brother, and Isaac realizes why he's being treated this way. Smiling, he says he still thinks the boy is the son of a saint. He might just be a half-blood, a child of some saint woman they brought from outside, but he's still a saint. And he adds that, besides, there's no way to know if he's really his brother's son, and says the kid's face is alright since he takes after that woman. Then he says that if it helps the family, maybe they can sell him off to continue the bloodline. And at that moment, Relay punches the man in the face. Goel shouts, calling him an idiot and asking why he hit him, while our hero thinks that thanks to all this, he's managing to gather valuable intel. Relay charges at his brother again as his knights rush to restrain him, and Isaac thinks it's better for things to be this messy, easier to bring down. He's quite excited, thinking this house will soon fall to ruins. The observer asks him to think carefully, questioning whether he too will go down with the house if it collapses, but our hero tells him to shut up. Some time later, finally at the residence of the Ishua family, our hero seems a little irritated by something. He thinks this is pretty annoying. Someone scoffs, asking if it's just another boy, and someone else asks what they'll do with the other child. Isaac thinks nobody here is sane. They go on saying that since they welcomed that damned peasant woman as a saint, the least she could do is not give birth to another useless baby, and that she has no right to be a saint, until a woman tells them all to shut up. She calls for Relay and says they've decided to raise the child in the house that's less in the spotlight. This is the matriarch, Henna Eshua. She asks why he allowed the child onto these lands. Isaac notices she's being hostile, and that the idea of sending him to the annex may have come from her. Goel demands Relay answer the interim matriarch, and our baby realizes she's the mother of that damn idiot. Relay starts speaking, saying that his father isn't here. The woman says he's in the city because everything's a mess with the situation around the saint's candidacy. The young man says that's a shame, because then he would have been able to hear the news that his grandson revived the sacred tree, and everyone in the room is shocked by this. Goel asks how that brat could have done it, and says that the prayers of House Eshua must have had an effect. Another person agrees, saying not even the patriarch could find a solution, so how could the baby have done it? The interim matriarch agrees as well, and says that to begin with, there's no proof. They comment that the matriarch is right, and that it's a great blessing that the sacred tree has returned to life, and our baby feels a bit annoyed by this. He starts moving his hands, thinking, you want proof? And to everyone's surprise in that room, something starts to happen. Our baby begins to use his magic in front of everyone, thinking, watch closely what I'm doing, while people start asking what that energy is. Someone says that's the energy of the sacred tree, and Isaac thinks, you idiots. Then someone says it looks like Isaac purged the mana that was feeding on the sacred tree. One of them says he knew there was mana inside the sacred tree, but that it's far too much for a baby, and yet he managed to give it a physical form. An old man says that this exorcism method might work, but it's not easy because if anything had gone wrong, the tree could have been killed. Goel says there's a reason why the patriarch chose a stable purification method, and he thinks there's no way a newborn could pull that off. Relay says that Isaac exorcised the mana by instinct, and our hero thinks, Bingo. He adds that this baby, who still drinks milk, did something no one here could do in 7 years, and his brother, very annoyed, asks what he just said. Then he slams the table, asking if the elders really believe in this nonsense. Getting worked up, he questions how a child could perform an exorcism, insisting that he can't even talk yet, and says there'll be a laughingstock if the world hears about this. The boy gets even more irritated and tells them to look at him, that he barely looks like he's from the Eshua bloodline, and who knows, maybe he's even from another family. His brother asks the honorable elders to listen to him, and that this child will become a saint, that he could even become the next pope, and our hero thinks, that's the spirit. Lifting him up like a trophy, he says that he'll also defeat the Skeleton King. The elders of the family are startled by the mention of that evil creature, but the matriarch thinks he's digging his own grave. Then she adds that, if he's so confident, maybe they should give him a test, and she wants him to use the divine relic that's being kept safely. Meanwhile, in the shadowy forest of the Holy Empire of Helen, someone is facing and defeating some dangerous creatures. The man says this place is in total chaos, and a soldier kneels in respect, saluting the patriarch, who asks what's going on. He explains that his substitute is requesting use of the sacred relic in storage. The man replies that he's already said the Sanctusades isn't allowed to use it, and the soldier says it wasn't them who requested it. He tells the old man that his grandson revived the sacred tree, and that his wife wants to see if he truly has the qualities of a saint. Gaining the man's interest, he asks what that's supposed to mean, then questions why there would be a saint in his household. That man is Eli Ishua, the patriarch. He says he won't allow it, and that only a saint could survive that place, and orders them to avoid unnecessary conflict. Then the old man changes his mind and tells them to proceed. A woman appears and asks if he's talking about Isaac. The matriarch in St. Alyssa asks if he revived the sacred tree, and wonders if that wasn't impressive. She says that once they open the storage, why not throw in all the saint candidates and saints together, though the soldier doesn't seem to understand what she means. The man says a child from another house might actually obtain something great from that place, and Alyssa says she hopes so. She explains that not even the best saint of any generation could get anything out of that place, and if someone manages to, they might be able to defeat the Skeleton King once and for all, and that it would be better to offer a reward for it. She steps forward and says to inform them that the child who brings back the greatest treasure will receive a reward even the Pope couldn't expect. They will receive the generational inheritance of House Eshua, and that soldier becomes nervous at the news. Then she adds that she herself will teach the child the family's secret technique. A bit fired up, she tells him to let everyone know they'll get whatever they want. The divine relic is where the secret technique was stored thousands of years ago. The saints stored it in the relic, and the Eshua are its guardians. Besides the fact that only a 10-year-old child can enter, this place is used as a ritual for saint candidates when they come of age. People anticipate what kind of power the saint will have based on what they bring out of there, but it's a dangerous place that risks the child's life, and it was sealed after several deaths. Then the observer says, "Let's see." He begins to say that if his little master comes out of there bringing a treasure, but our hero interrupts, asking why he's narrating. Then the observer asks if he's not excited about it, and our baby confirms that he is. Very happily, he says that the Skeleton King's body is in there. Then suddenly someone shows up and asks if he's excited about it, calling him young master. The young man explains that the matriarch opened the vault to all the candidates, and our hero is surprised by this. They say that the 5 children of the renowned houses will be there, and although the Dan family of the Pope will also attend, he's certain the young master will win either way. He thinks it's a good thing since with more people there will be more distractions, making it easier for him to get his body back. Then the man says he needs to be careful, because the demons captured on the battlefield are guarding the interior, and our hero wonders if it's dangerous because of the demons. That being the case, he's sure all the demons are rank 6 or lower, since they were captured. While he's making plans on how to deal with that, Relay says that rank 8 demons are not easy opponents to face. Isaac becomes tense, wondering why there are rank 8 demons there, as the men talk about the rank 9 dragon being even worse, and the other agrees, saying in a way, yes. The observer says the entire Eshua house must be insane, and questions placing a dragon in a place where a bunch of babies will be. He says at least the master knows a lot about dragons, asking if that's true. But he doesn't understand why his master is so tense, while our baby thinks a dragon is dangerous in many ways. Our hero then remembers that he's already tricked some dragons. He recalls dragons complaining about being deceived, even the elder dragons. Our hero becomes nervous, since dragons have good memory and will probably remember him, while the observer says it's a good time to change masters. Determined, he says there's no other choice. He thinks there are demons and rank 9 dragons in the relic vault, and that he can barely handle rank 6 demons in his current state. And to fight them, he'll need to steal all the mana cores from the Eshua house. So excitedly, he raises his arm and says let's head to the annex. Meanwhile, at the Eshua residence, the child is in front of the main door with a book in his hand. Seeing the boy, the observer asks if he's okay. With an expression like he's about to be exorcised, the young master reads about holy magic and how to destroy the Skeleton King. If I knew how to manipulate holy power, I could easily learn all these spells, the boy thinks. Next, he asks for a summary. The observer explains that the boy is using dark magic in the center of the clergy and asks if he wants to bring the house down, then wonders what happened to his personality. Irritated, the child says in his own baby language that he doesn't understand anything with only the theory in front of him. An adult appears and picks him up off the floor, noticing that the baby seems tired. The man says today's been a busy day while cradling the boy against his chest, remembering that children his age need 16 hours of sleep per day. As that person lays Isaac in the crib, a young man grabs the book that the baby had been holding earlier. The adult extends his hand above the little one's head, using a regeneration spell, which makes the boy really excited, since it's a holy spell. That excitement takes over completely, and he starts bouncing, wanting his uncle to use an attack spell, but the observer asks him to quiet down. Isaac thinks he needs to get rid of everyone soon, and his companion wonders who would fall for such a ridiculous act. The knight chuckles, saying the boy fell asleep quickly. Relay feels happy because his nephew learns everything so fast, and the shadow can't believe they bought it. While the adults chat among themselves about needing to get back to their duties, the little boy finds all of it funny, and the observer sarcastically evaluates those people. The totem is dangerous and you must take it. That phrase reaches the child like an alarm. Since it's our hero's first totem, the uncle believes it must be protected, but the baby has to resurrect it. When he learns that the object will be placed in a highly visible location, Isaac gets upset because he was going to use it to drain mana. He thinks he'll have to drain the mana core completely. As he prepares to leave the crib, his companion asks if the boy plans to crawl all the way to the annex. He insists he has a plan and that the other only needs to open the door, but the observer doesn't believe it will work very well. The shadow explains that there's no way to carry him the whole way, but then it notices something. The uncle locked the door, and the lock is on the outside, with holy magic on it as well. Isaac asks the demon to break it, but the other says that would draw unwanted attention. People would think there's an attack happening. This situation is making the little boy angry since it's not like he can hold back and whisper the entire way there. Besides, if he uses magic, things could get even more complicated. Using all the strength he has to open the door, he wonders how he could escape that room. Suddenly, someone enters out of nowhere. A young man is standing at the door, confused about what's happening. That is Shuri Eshua, and staring at the baby, he says in disbelief that he shouldn't even be walking yet. The boy wonders if that's supposed to be his rival, while his companion is furious that his master got hurt. Goel's son gets frustrated that the totem wasn't made by him, the genius. There's no way that Brat could have done it, the young man thinks. He uses a magic spell that catches the baby's attention. Shuri says he'll be the next saint. As the magic rises from his hand, the young man asks how that little brat dares to desire what's rightfully his, but he's distracted as an object approaches. Just as he says that this is his plan to escape the curse, Isaac uses a spell to levitate the object and hits him in the head, interrupting him. Excited, the little one says he's found his ride. In pain, the rival asks if he knows who he is, and the baby thinks he looks just like his delinquent uncle, so he must be his son. He also notes that the kid used sacred mana to attack him. He believes the other deserves a solid beating for that. With the demon enjoying what he's seeing, the boy wants Shuri to just accept becoming his ride. After some time, Goel's son is all beaten up, but he manages to create a magical shield and asks if the other thinks he's special. The young man says that no one his age can use third-rank sacred defensive magic. He adds that it's way too early to be impressed. He uses a third-rank sacred attack magic called Radiant Holiness, then hurls it at the baby, who thinks it's pretty impressive since it's the second time he's used that type of spell in a row. Isaac thanks him for the meal with a smile, and uses a powerful magic spell of his own. Shuri asks how that defensive magic can be so huge. The baby wonders how the other learned that since his uncle never taught it to him. Laughing loudly, the master thanks him for the lesson learned as he uses the same attack spell. Thinking it's absurd, the young man exclaims that it makes no sense. Then the little boy points at Goel's son. Balls of light fly toward the young man, who begs him to wait. Isaac watches his attack and the other's desperation with satisfaction. The demon remarks that even though it was fun to watch, is it worth taking down someone from House Eshua? And the boy replies that he's not doing that. After all, he didn't even hit the target. He only wanted to scare him. You didn't even hit me, so why scare me like that, you bastard? Yells Shuri. Upon hearing that it didn't matter how many attacks the boy used against the Saint candidate, the Black Shadow got angry. Even the little one didn't expect such an extreme reaction. Now like a threatening shadow, he questions the audacity of attacking the powerful master. As Shuri trembles in fear, the demon asks if he wants to be completely destroyed. Goel's son, previously so brave, is now on the verge of tears. Isaac climbs up his companion and asks what the young man is doing exactly, then demands that he carry him immediately. Someone thought to himself, "My name is Shuri Eshua, and I will become a saint in the future." He decides he'll escape the curse of House Eshua and become the Pope. Suddenly, something happens under his feet. Our hero appears on his back while he calls this child a cursed brat. Isaac rides the boy like a horse, intending to make him take him to the annex, while Shuri asks why he's doing this. The boy tried to ask if he knew who he was, but the demon answered instead, telling him to move before he tears him apart. calling him a lowly human insect. The boy is obviously intimidated by that entity, and in desperation, he thinks his focus has to be on staying alive, wishing someone would save him. Some time later, still that same night, our little hero is guiding his mount, scolding him along the way, while Shuri asks where they're going in the middle of the night. The boy finally gets a bit surprised when he sees where they're headed, and realizes it's the second annex of House Eshua, a haunted house. He wonders why that crazy bastard brought him there. He knows many people died in that place, so the patriarch forbade anyone from entering. The demon comments that it looks like there are a dozen of them in there. He adds that he would have to train to death for centuries to gather that much mana. Our hero gets excited, and Shuri becomes frightened, asking if he really wants to go in. He insists they can't go in there. The boy says the adults told them not to enter, but the demon tells him to shut up and keep walking, calling him a mutt. A little later, already inside that haunted house, our hero notices that the inside is in even worse condition. Isaac seems to sense something and asks what it could be. His demon says the entire building is sealed, many doors have protective barriers, and our hero struggles with that a bit. Shuri insists that they should turn back, saying everything inside is locked. But suddenly, our hero grabs his hair, startling him a lot. The boy keeps walking, begging him to stop pulling his hair. Then they come across some portraits, and he asks if those are past patriarchs. He asks our hero if he's aiming for the position of patriarch now too. He then says that doesn't make any sense. He adds that the next patriarch will truly be his. Suddenly, he throws that object forward, leaving Shuri terrified. He screams in fear, saying those are his ancestors. He asks if he's crazy and demands to know what he's doing to the patriarchs. Our hero wonders why someone would put a barrier on portraits, and the observer says the barrier was broken for happiness. It must be the master. Then he throws himself to the ground, saying they should go. Shuri asks where he's going. Our hero rolls away while the boy shouts if he's insane, asking where he's going after making all that mess. Then suddenly he reaches the place he was looking for. He tells his helper to lock the door. Meanwhile, Shuri runs after him, yelling for him to stop and asking what he's doing. Our hero thinks a kid like him doesn't need to know, while Shuri yells, calling him a brat. Our hero finally sits down and calms himself, and focusing, he thinks it's time to begin. Meanwhile, the boy starts banging on the door from outside, telling him to come out quickly, or else he'll tell the adults right away. He yells that he'll tell everything and that he'll be kicked out of there. Suddenly, several adults arrive, calling out for Shuri, which startles him. They ask what he's doing there, and he says his uncle arrived just in time and tells them Isaac is a monster. The elder shouts, asking what he thinks he's doing, and says he knows it's forbidden to enter that annex. She asks what he was thinking bringing Isaac there. The boy gets tense, unsure what to say. They ask how many people he thinks saw him taking Isaac there, and on top of that, there were traces of holy attack magic in the baby's room. She asks if he's responsible for all that, but Shuri tries to defend himself, saying he was forced to bring him there, and that the traces of magic weren't quite like that. Relay says he went too far this time. No matter what, he's abusing a small child. Then they ask where he locked Isaac, but Shuri defends himself, saying he didn't lock him anywhere. He explains the baby went there on his own. Relay knocks on the door, asking if Isaac is inside, and the other people are surprised at Shuri's behavior, asking why he locked the door. When the door opens, he's surprised by what he sees, and there inside is Isaac, crying like a poor little baby. The elder asks if Isaac is okay, saying he looks terrible. Relay feels more at ease, saying thank God he's fine, though he seems scared, but it looks like nothing happened to him. He gives the boy a reproachful look. He says Shuri should be ashamed, but Shuri tries to defend himself, saying that's not what happened. Our hero looks just a little bit satisfied with this, and with a satisfied look, he says in his baby language that he had a great snack and thanks the boy. Yuri looks like he's going to lose it, calling him a bastard, while the elder scolds him, and people start asking why Shuri looks like he's about to faint. Isaac thinks there was even more than he expected and sees that he gathered more mana than he would have in 100 years of training. And he realizes that with this amount of mana, he can finally move forward with his plan, and Relay thinks Isaac is actually looking a bit scary. Meanwhile, at the quiet Yeshua residence, someone tells Isaac that they need to introduce him to someone important. His uncle introduces Asiley and says she will be working as his assistant from now on. The girl introduces herself and says she is a holy knight of the faithful house Eshua. Then she respectfully bows to our hero, saying she will serve him until death. Isaac wonders if someone was assigned to keep an eye on him after the last serious incident. So in his baby language, he tries to clearly protest. Irritated, he says she's excused but should get out of his sight immediately. The two get a little tense with the baby's attitude. The woman stammers a bit, speaking nervously to her young master. Then she asks if she can pinch his cheek just once, while our hero thinks everyone in this house is insane. His uncle then suddenly remembers something and says he has a present for him. Our hero asks if he found that in a dumpster, and the demon says he heard the house is having financial problems and that's not worthy of his master. Then the girl is shocked and asks if that isn't, by God, the inheritance of the saints. Our hero doesn't really understand that, so Relay says his uncle got that directly from the council, just for him. Isaac is a bit surprised now, because he realizes that it's the ring the saint used in the battle against him, the Elder Ring, which contains a small miracle from a god. He also knows the holy power stored in it is incredible. Isaac notes he can only use it once or twice before it breaks, but he has a way to fix that. Then he notices something else strange, that his other uncle is watching him from a corner with an envious and focused look. Our hero deduces, from the expression on that guy's face, that the ring really is genuine and authentic. Goel approaches laughing, saying he's his cute and beloved little nephew. And with a slightly fake tone, he comments on how lovable he is at that moment. He tells him he hopes he's found the place comfortable and safe. Isaac wonders if he's finally gone insane, while Goel thinks these things are a bit complicated. He knows he broke the blessing device in relic storage, so he can't be blessed, but didn't expect to receive something like that instead. The elder woman said that since Isaac can't receive the blessing, giving him that is more than enough, and at the time Goel was shocked and questioned it. He protested, saying it should be given to his son instead, and the elder asked if he meant Shuri. Then she asked if he hadn't already received the blessing from the Sancta Sede, suggesting that Goel shouldn't be so greedy and should return to his place. Goel plans to take it back and pretend he's donating it to the Sancta Sede, because there's no way they'll know the real value of that thing. So he tells his brother that he should give a better gift because that one is useless, and Riley asks how his brother can say that about such a sacred item. Goel keeps insisting that Isaac is his precious nephew, and how could he give him something so worthless? He shows a ring, saying it's imbued with many blessings straight from the Sancta Sede, and that it'll be more powerful for him in the relic storage, besides being a very valuable item that Riley could never get. Excited, he shows the ring to our baby, while Isaac punches him right as he was offering that old filthy ring. He asks if that item doesn't reek of the filthy smell of the Pope. Throwing that thing far away, he laughs and says he might end up getting carried away by him. Then Goel yells over what happened, and screams for them to find the ring immediately, while Riley thinks that ring looked more precious than the one he gave, but that Isaac still preferred his own. Then his uncle reaches out, calling Isaac beloved nephew. Happily, they start tossing the baby into the air, saying they'll give him the best from now on, while Goel screams in despair, ordering the men to search and find the ring at any cost. Satisfied, our hero thinks he used a weight spell on that ring so it'll never be found, and his demon is amazed by his young master. Then Isaac tells him to go retrieve it at dawn, and the demon, disheartened, asks if it's his job, and the baby confirms. He explains the thing must be worth a fortune, so he's going to sell it. Punching a table, Goel calls that boy a damned brat and a rat, saying he has no idea how expensive that thing was. Then he adds that it doesn't matter and bets he won't be able to properly use the Elder Ring. He says it's an item suited for someone who can't even use holy magic. He'd need to absorb the equivalent of 20 people with sacred power. He says he wonders if there would even be 10 people who'd show up to his first birthday. Then the next day, at the Ishua residence, the place is packed and very lively. Asili says it's wonderful because they managed to gather around 4,000 people, including saint candidates and nobles. She says it seems all the ducal families are there, and asks if it isn't great that even saint candidates from other countries came. Isaac wonders why there are so many saint candidates. Maybe the gods get bored and just sprinkle them around, and the demon says that might be the case. Riley says he didn't expect this, that he thought no one would show up because they might think it was a trap. Suddenly someone says, "That's the thing, my friend. Nobody's going to see this as a trap." And excited, the boy says he arrived just in time. This is Riley's best friend, Count Simon. The young man is surprised to see him there, and his friend says the rumor spread a lot and of course he was going to come. He explains that everyone figured this couldn't be a trap, so they decided to show up. After all the weak boys from Eshua are participating, and he asks how he could not come, considering what the head of the Eshua house put at stake. And even the Pope's family is coming. Isaac doesn't understand and wonders what was put at stake. Riley tells him not to be ridiculous, that there's no way the Pope's family would attend, and Simon says they really do hate this territory because of all the commoners. A man tells Simon to lower his voice, but he questions why and says his own son is a saint candidate too, and that the Pope's family has no reason to come here. Riley tells him to be careful with what he says. Simon says to ignore those who look like they stepped in crap, and then someone says there's a saying, "Nothing is more dangerous than a vulgar friend." Adding to that, he says the wisdom of the elders never fails. Riley is surprised to see that it's Bishop Barrett, and the man returns his look with the most arrogant expression. He comments that he's surprised the weak men of House Eshua managed to organize an event like this, and hopes the baby brings something useful from the relic vault to save his family. He says he's eager to see the child dare proclaim himself a saint candidate. Aisili thinks she herself hasn't seen it yet. Still, she adds that this is an opportunity for them. She sincerely prays that this saint candidate might bring glory to her family's name. Riley wonders what's going on, whether this is some scheme orchestrated by the Sancta Sede itself. The fact that the number of saint candidates went from 25 to 148 in just 1 week is strange, and the only explanation is that they're turning a blind eye. Anyone could make their child a candidate, but once they entered the relic vault, the weak ones would be filtered out. He's worried they might even hurt him during the chaos. He looks at the girl, thinking that could happen. Our hero is calm over there, wiping his nose, and Riley thinks Isaac might be in danger. Boys born in House Eshua, besides their exceptionally striking appearance, and in addition to their strong family reputation, are generally useless. but for those who have the superior DNA of the true Ishua, and for those who want to earn favor from the papal house and who despise this deep sanctity. A boy from House Eshua is a tempting target for many, so go have a little fun with one of the boys from House Eshua here today, because they shouldn't be killed, just rendered useless for anything. Mixing drugs into this water and using a sacred poison that shows a child of House Eshua the cold reality of this cruel world, turning him into a laughingstock in front of everyone, and making it clear that an Eshua child can never be a saint, showing that to the entire visible world. Our hero feels pleased with that, saying that's how a true killer does it. The kids get scared, and one of them asks how many of those he's drunk in his life. Our hero throws that bottle at him, saying in his baby tongue to bring more, because they can't kill him with that small amount of poison. Shaking that baby bottle, he yells for them to bring more, while one of the boys says he just wants to go home and the others look frightened. He wonders if the baby shouldn't have diarrhea by now, so they start suspecting they might have given him the wrong bottle. The boy says he doesn't feel well and that this isn't good, telling the others to just keep going, but wonders why he keeps drinking those spiked drinks. A boy approaches, thinking about not tarnishing the Yeshua name, and questions if a saint candidate can't notice drugged water. He orders the baby to stop drinking and asks if he's possessed. Then he finally extends his hand, offering him a container. While he was telling him to drink that, our hero throws the bottle in his face, saying there's no poison in there, of course in his baby language. Isaac demands they bring him one with poison, while the guy asks why he's fine. Stammering, he says that one has holy poison, and the girl asks if he's crazy because that would kill the baby, leaving our hero surprised. Then our hero jumps from the ground demanding it be handed over now, startling the girl. A commotion begins nearby as they start theorizing that the baby is immune to poison, and another says he heard that training one's holy power could do that. They keep wondering why he's doing this, if it's to test whether it's poisonous because it could be dangerous for others, and another boy thinks about what they're saying, when suddenly someone approaches, catching everyone's attention. Then he asks if the baby is sacrificing himself for some reason. Startled, he asks if that's Kina Baridi, and questions why he's even there. He thinks he didn't know the papal house would participate in the mission. The other children wonder if it's Kina Baridi, and why the Pope's house is also after the valuable treasure. Off to the side, our hero seems to have won that difficult standoff. That person was internally chosen to become the saint, but they wonder if that family could produce that kind of hair color, and that no matter how far they search their memory, all previous popes had brown hair. He finally says it's not strange that the papal house is also here, and that the Pope is the leader of this organization, so the sacred treasure is the property of the papal house. So he's here to take back what's rightfully his, asking how that could possibly be strange. Our hero concludes that he's definitely part of the papal house by the way he talks. Isaac thinks he's a monster, and that his holy power has already surpassed that of the bishops, and believes that's why he's the main candidate for sainthood. The boy tries to make the host look bad, asking if they're saint candidates. He adds that all of them are below standard, and asks what they gain by terrifying this young child. He explains that there's no way this child could control poison immunity, and that it must be the power of sainthood protecting him. Our hero believes that stupidity runs in the family. Dramatically claiming it's a poor child, he gently starts using his power, saying he's going to heal him. People nearby murmur that he can already use poison healing, and that with that much holy power he must already be rank 5. Our hero is surprised. He thinks he's trying to show off a little, and figures it's a clever move, but suddenly he lands a solid hit on that boy while smiling like a cute baby. The boy is surprised and angry about it, while another points out that his holy power disappeared. That boy looks at our baby with a swollen face. He realizes his holy power was dismissed, and can't believe it was this baby who did it, clearly stunned. Scared and trembling, he asks if the baby is more powerful than him, and becomes furious, asking if this is the trash of the Eshuas. Our hero tenses up, wondering why he's being stared at like that. While our baby says in his infant speech that he'll smash his head with the bottle, someone throws themselves over him telling him not to do that. People question the fact that he hit someone who was trying to heal his poison, and that the person helped him because he's family. They ask if the baby thinks he can take on the papal house, and others laugh asking if he can be defended, while he knows that if it weren't for him, they'd all be getting beaten up. Showing understanding, Kina says it's all right. After all, he's just a baby and must have gotten scared. As he steps away from the place, he says he wishes good luck to the Yeshua boys, and asks whether they shouldn't grab all the toys they can to save their family's reputation, because the greatest treasure of all treasures will belong to him anyway, and that Yeshua will never get close to the Skeleton King's body. This comment surprises our hero. He thinks this boy is annoying, thinks he came all this way just to stir things up. At that moment, our hero grabs his clothes, and in his baby language, yells asking what that white-haired bastard just said. He wants to know what was said about the Skeleton King's body, while the boy asks why he's doing this, and adds that the matriarch said whoever brings the Skeleton King's body will earn the right to learn a special technique. Our hero falls to the ground tense, thinking about what Melissa did, wondering what kind of joke she's playing with his body. The children keep interacting with each other while our hero plays with some jars. He sits there thinking about his life. He thinks he spent hundreds of years storing mana in his old body, and reaching rank 10 would be child's play if he could get his hands on it. But how can he reach his body when all these kids are after it? In the end, he thinks it doesn't matter, and he'll take down anyone who gets in his way. Then someone tells everyone to gather around. The man explains they'll be departing soon, so they need to listen carefully. He starts saying that the treasure is a sacred place, while Isaac wonders if he's really going to start telling a history lesson, and that it's going to take forever. So he starts crawling toward the location, to his companion's despair. He wonders where the baby thinks he's going. Then a huge explosion goes off in the area, leaving all of them shocked by that baby. Our hero has just used a spell to move faster, thinking it's time to test out the new sacred art he learned. The man desperately tells him not to go there. It's an off-limits area, and if he goes that way, traps will be triggered all over the treasure site. Everyone around is panicking at that. They all start running toward where the baby went, yelling to stop him. Meanwhile, back at the Eshua mansion, one man says he hopes the young master is okay. Then finally, one of the men says he managed to connect with the inside of the treasure vault, and that they'll be able to watch live what's happening inside, thanks to his summons. The chamber door was opened, and the candidates are entering. Rele, tense, thinks it's too early. It's announced in the broadcast that Amon Aegis is currently in 3rd place, and an excited man says that's his son. They announce that in 2nd place is Shuri Eshua, while his father shouts that he's proud of him. And finally, it seems they're about to announce who's in 1st place. To everyone's surprise, they say it's Isaac. Back to the test, the baby is running like a maniac. The instructor runs after the baby, begging him to please stop because he can't go that way. That man suddenly steps on something, and says that like this, he's going to end up triggering a trap, when at that moment, he himself is hit by the trap. Then the man falls to the ground injured, to the despair of some children who start running and begging to leave. Shuri yells that he's a lunatic and asks why he's going that way. He's making a mess. He says the treasure trial is already hard enough, and now they'll also have to deal with anti-intruder traps. Our hero thinks that must be the portal to the 2nd chapter, and that's the door to the 2nd chamber, and the 2nd layer of traps has been activated. His companion says it was a good job, and thanks to the mana cores he absorbed, he can also level up. The boy says now he can work more, then gives the order for him to go and catch the target now, and the observer gladly follows the command. Among the group of children, one says they didn't know it would be this hard. Another says that's why the saint is so powerful, while Shuri seems to notice something different. Suddenly someone points at him, asking if he's not that brat from the Eshua family. Another one confirms that's right, and makes a wrong comment about his name. He asks why he's flying, while they say someone must have taught him that at home. But Shuri thinks that's not it and calls them idiots. He thinks he's flying against his will. The observer returns, telling his master that he secured his informant. Desperate, the boy says that somehow he passed through the 1st chamber, but must be very careful or he'll die in the 2nd chamber. As he explains that it was designed to teach the saint how to endure fear and choose the right path, he's hit by a trap. Isaac says in his baby language that he doesn't want to hear nonsense. He just wants to know about this 2nd chamber. Then Shor says that when he enters the 2nd chamber, he must not attack the enemies no matter what happens, and he emphasizes that. Our hero thinks that makes no sense. If they're enemies, why shouldn't he attack them? But the boy says that's the only way to pass through. He asks if the baby understood or they're both screwed. Meanwhile, Isaac wonders if it's a patience test, thinking that's kind of cliche. Desperate, the boy says people die there. Our hero says it's fine, that place seems peaceful to walk through, and asks if all he has to do is dodge the attacks, adding that waiting 3 minutes to complete this isn't much. Then he touches the door and an announcement welcomes him to the Chamber of Tranquility. The voice says patience is a virtue and also a cold excuse, and adds that he should not be shaken and must remain calm. Our hero stares at everything while the voice continues, saying that his patience will guide him to the light. Finally, someone nearby moves. That group of children begins to stir. Then one of them asks if they'll be okay, since they're in last place. The small one explains that there's no reason they'd encounter danger first, and says their shields will go ahead, and asks if they forgot that rank 8 demons guard the entrance to the 2nd chamber, betting those others got screwed at the entrance. The boy points ahead, telling them to look carefully. That's when a bright light bursts from the front of the corridor. With a sly look, Kina says the challenge has truly begun. That massive door begins to open slowly. The voice once again says not to let yourself be shaken, and a beautiful person appears before them. Just smiling gently, that person extends their hand as the voice says patience will be your guide, that if not you will die, and then that person is engulfed in flames from a spell, dying instantly, which shocks our hero. The pair of boys are terrified by the situation. Shuri remembers the baby saying 3 minutes is nothing and curses the situation. He yells, cursing our hero. The baby asks how he's supposed to stay calm with them, making that disgusting god face, and his companion says he held on for 3 seconds longer than he expected. A voice says he has completely failed, and says that those who couldn't truly be patient will face the wrath of harsh divine punishment. Desperate, Shuri says they're screwed now and are definitely going to die. But our hero says nothing and starts casting a powerful spell. He hits the creature dead on, which lets out a loud scream after being struck. That boy panics and is terrified, asking what just happened. The creature has a huge hole in its torso, and Shuri wonders what the hell is wrong with him at that moment. That massive creature falls apart there at the door. Our hero wonders if that thing was a rank 8 and asks if they're joking. He thinks the golem was made by one of his subordinates. It was one of the 14 elite demons, the strongest one he trained while he was the Skeleton King. This is magic that belongs to one of them. He wonders how that's functioning there, beneath the Yeshua house, or if it's connected to his body's presence nearby. He decides he needs to find more information about it, while Shuri asks where he's going. Suddenly, someone shows up and says he thought the Yeshua boys might be useful. That person crouches down and picks something up from the plants. That's Negel Sephet, and he says, "I told you a Yeshua boy would know how to get through this," and thanks them for defeating the gate guardian for them, but tells them to get out of the way now because they'll be entering the second chamber first. They ask if he has any idea how much they suffered because of that boy, and bet he wants to go in first just to set up a bunch of traps again. He adds that he didn't know how Yeshua could be so cowardly, and he bets Shuri is involved in this. The boy gets agitated, saying no, that he's really not working with him. He asks if they also saw that kid avoiding the traps and how that would even make sense. Suddenly, he notices there's an artifact on the baby's chest. So ripping it off, he says it must have something to do with this ring. Excited, he tells his group that now they're able to avoid the traps, and Shuri thinks this is very wrong. They say it's scary how calm the baby is about this, and that he shouldn't let anyone steal something from him without a fight. Then, saying they don't need them, the boy steps forward, telling the Yeshua to stay away. He says the Skeleton King's body was something not even saints could bring back, and that it belongs to the Sephet house of the Red Faith, and he, Negel Sephet, will bring it back. The boy keeps walking ahead excitedly, when a huge explosion of flames engulfs the entire room. People ask what's going on and shout frantically that it's a trap. They think the baby has something to do with it. They conclude that Isaac tricked them on purpose. Now the duo moves forward into the second chamber, passing by all those fallen boys. Our hero notices that most of the traps in that place have already been cleared, but he senses something more. He wonders why those kids are still following him. One of the boys says he's sure the baby has divine energy, and another says after all, he's from the House of Saints. The kids comment that Nigel was an idiot. The observer says they've recognized the master's magnificence, but our hero says he doesn't want their reverence. The boy thinks the others should run, because the monster above their heads is the most terrifying of demons. Someone says that if there's a saint among them, he believes it must be someone like our baby. A boy smiles gently and says it's a pleasure to meet him. He introduces himself as Paris Julius, second son of the kingdom of Julius. Our hero becomes curious about the boy who came from that kingdom and believes he might be a bit useful. Then he grabs Shuri's hair while the boy protests, saying they've arrived and that this is the portal to the third chamber. Suddenly, glowing orbs of energy welcome the candidates and say this is the third chamber of contemplation. Some angelic figures tell them to show their courage and determination. Among the group, they comment that they've reached the next chamber and that they'll follow him instead of Nigel, saying the skeleton's body will be theirs. The entity says the trial will be simple. They must defeat them and claim their honor. The children wonder if they really said they have to beat them up to prove their courage, and another says to go for it. Our hero is intrigued by them. Then, after thinking for a while, he decides, and concludes that this will be fun. Isaac starts doing something right on the boy's head, and Shuri thinks the baby must be right, that the portal guardians are lying. He remembers that the first chamber was the chamber of selection. Isaac rushed straight through it. The second was the chamber of tranquility, but the baby couldn't hold back and chaos broke out. The third is the chamber of contemplation, and he concludes that contemplation is a clue, so they need to remember what happened in the first and second chambers. He concludes they shouldn't attack them. Our hero wants everyone to stay put, and the children seem to understand the command, while Shuri wonders why they're helping them. And he thinks that even though he's a demon, he still has Yeshua blood and sanctity, and even if just a little, he must have inherited the saint's virtue. He believes he must have made a mistake in judging the baby. While he's convinced that he possesses holiness and will show the others the right path, our hero hits the entity square in the face. That leaves the boy a bit confused. Then the creature feels the attack and seems to get angry, saying they failed. That thing launches an attack toward the children. It hits the boys directly as they scream for help. As the children cry out for help and call for their mothers, our hero just watches. Then Shuri starts wondering if it could really be, and Isaac has a look of satisfaction, while his mount thinks he's a crazy bastard. Enjoying the moment, he thinks this is a very familiar sight. The creature says they are stupid, and that saints should not easily believe other people's words. Those are puppets created by elite demons. Now our hero points at the creatures and orders him to teach them a little about the battles of life. Screams and fire explosions can be clearly heard in the area. The children run, wondering where the Yeshua boys went, since they were just nearby. Our hero continues with a satisfied look, having used his powerful rank 6 invisibility magic. Paris says that was the blessing their uncle gave them, and that he used it just in time. Then he thanks him for also receiving invisibility, but our baby says none of that matters, throwing something to him and telling him to catch it. The boy asks what it is exactly. Intrigued, he realizes it's a mysterious ring, and asks if it's because he's not useful for fighting demons, then thanks him, saying he'll never forget this. Suddenly, something starts happening to the boy, and it really doesn't look good. The observer encourages his master, while our baby laughs and says the prince has a lot of holy power. The boy wonders where his uncle found this monster. Nearby, some children ask to group up in one place and wonder who could use defensive holy arts. One of them says he'll use it first, while another orders him to stay right behind. That demon charges forward and commands them to accept his severe punishment, and the boy, desperate, orders them to attack now without hesitation. He charges at the creature, focusing power into his strong hand. But the next moment, he collapses slowly to the ground. Not understanding anything, the boy asks what's going on, and in despair, he questions what exactly just happened. Then suddenly, he starts feeling drained and collapses to the floor. The demon seems to have no idea what is happening there. He starts looking around, asking where the others who fell for the cruel lie are. The observer says they absorbed the holy power of everyone there, and our hero orders him to now go do the same on the other side. His demonic companion obeys and starts moving toward the children. He approaches with that ring and begins absorbing the boy, while no one around seems to understand what's happening. Our hero thinks that they stop attacking when someone collapses, so it's better for him to drain the power and make them fall than let them get hurt. The observer says he's almost finished with what he needs to do, when suddenly, a massive fire attack bursts forth. One of the creatures is hit head-on, completely shocking the demon. That small demon goes bouncing from the intensity of the attack. Then suddenly someone appears, saying he finally found him. And Kina appears, clearly saying the name Isaac Yeshua. Our hero thinks he had been wondering where the boy was, but turns out he's right there. Shuri thinks he knows Isaac is called a genius, but he's still worried. Flaming wings of a creature appear, looking impressive, and the boy thinks they summoned a holy spirit of that age. It's insane. Kina says he's surprised that there was someone else who could take down a demon like that, and asks if, by any chance, he led the children into another trap like he did in the first chamber. He adds that if that's what he did, but the other children interrupt, yelling no. They explain that this baby did it while trying to complete the challenge for them, and that he even told them to stay away. They say he saved them. Our hero thinks they must be out of their minds, and the observer says that's what they call Stockholm Syndrome. Kina questions the kids and asks if they're not ashamed to be called saint candidates, thinking it's kind of humiliating to be saved by a baby. One child protests, saying he was behind all of them, and asks what right he has to say that, pointing out that they were the ones who found all the traps. They argue that Isaac is more saintly than him, since he went in there without needing to do anything, and that they'll tell the adults once they get out of there. They say Isaac did everything while he did nothing, and say it's better to follow the Yeshua, while Shuri thinks that's not it. He's draining everyone. They add that if it weren't for him, they'd be in serious trouble. But suddenly something catches everyone's attention in the room. A massive fireball appears high above, making them all tense. They wonder if that's the gate to the third chamber, and another asks if the second chamber is over, while a third says yes. A voice congratulates them for completing the second chamber and says that he is the final guardian of the treasure. That voice commands them to make a choice. It asks whether they want to take the treasure there and end their trial, or face a challenge and enter the third chamber. One of the boys says they definitely choose the third chamber, but the voice tells them to decide carefully. Then it repeats the question, asking if they want to take the treasure and end the test there, or face the challenge to enter the third chamber. It explains that if they pass the challenge, they'll find the treasure of the third chamber, but if they don't, to everyone's terror, it adds that they will die. The observer explains to the master that this guardian is the mana he sends, and our hero says yes, that it's the dragon, and he believes it could be true that if they fail, they'll be killed. One of the boys says he'll go to the third chamber, that it was too hard to get here just to give up now. Another says that if he gets the treasure, he might become a saint. This starts to excite the other children, who get quite eager to move forward. Then the voice says they're going to risk death by facing this difficult challenge, and as it radiates its power, it says it understands clearly. Raising the volume of its voice, it says they must then face the challenge with courage. The voice continues and says that for everyone who gathered there to become a saint. Suddenly, a powerful energy hits the ground, and the voice adds that they must face the challenge as people try to protect themselves from the debris. It explains that the final challenge will be simple, and a massive statue rises in the room, saying that they must worship the god. The children seem a little confused, asking why it's a statue again, and mention that this is the statue of the cardinal. The voice commands them to show respect, and that only those who demonstrate true devotion may proceed to the third chamber. The boys ask if they just have to kneel and pray in front of the statue, and think it's too easy for a real challenge. Our hero thinks this is nonsense. He wonders if they want him to kneel before those bastards, the guy who screwed him over hundreds of years ago. All the boys say it's just praying to the supreme god and ask if they shouldn't just do it. Then one of them kneels before the statue, starting a prayer worthy of all glory and honor, called Lord and God, and he finishes saying that his servant worships him. That voice says he's learned well, and says it's excellent and that he may pass. So the child celebrates while the others believe that's all they have to do to get through. Suddenly, our hero jumps from the top of his companion's head. Shuri says he needs to pray, while he kicks the boy and asks if he's gone insane. That boy falls to the ground, holding his injured and aching shin. She steps forward and says the prayer is carefully taught by the Holy See, then kneels in front of the statue and asks them to watch carefully. She says this is the proper way to worship a true supreme god. Meanwhile, the children say they want to do it too and get overly excited. He starts saying the words of the prayer while the others just silently watch. That voice asks the others what they're doing and questions if they're giving up and choosing death. But the frightened children say no, that they're going to do it too. The statue seems to become confused by something, and asks that little baby why he's not on his knees. He answers in his baby language that he'd have to be crazy to do that. The children ask why he's acting like that and if he has a problem with faith. They ask if it's true that the Ishua are slowly losing their faith, while Shuri orders that demonic child to pray so he doesn't stain the family's name. Tana thinks that everything will be recorded and asks if he wants his saint candidacy revoked. No matter how talented he is, if he has no faith, it ends there, and she concludes she was worried for nothing. The statue addresses the baby and says he is committing an act of disrespect, and our baby challenges it, asking what it's going to do about it, calling it a bastard. Isaac says he'd rather die and asks if it really thinks he would kneel before that horrible thing, and adds that it can go ahead and kill him without mercy. The statue begins to slowly manifest its great power, and says that anyone who disrespects it must die immediately. From the ground where he is, he curses at the statue and says, "Then do it now." He begins to focus power into his fist and says the statue is stupid and that he'll destroy it, but the observer says that must be dangerous. But our hero just ignores it, shouting for it to die. The statue says that was impressive, and our baby doesn't understand a thing. The voice says that the little baby has passed, and that he may now proceed to the third chamber. Kina is shocked, asking what that means. He protests, saying the statue said they had to show their devotion to pass, so how can he pass without saying a single prayer, claiming that's impossible? The statue replies that the only one allowed to pass to the third chamber is the baby, because he's the only one who demonstrated true faith in God. That voice asks if he didn't understand, then explains that they knelt before a statue, not before God, and asks whether their faith commands them to bow before idols. It continues, saying that even in the form of a god, a statue is still an idol. The children become desperate because the statue is the perfect image of their god, but the texts say not to worship statues, and that this was a trick. Then it tells them to look at this child, who even in the face of death did not abandon his faith. Therefore, this child alone will have the right to enter the third chamber. The observer asks if that was faith, and our hero tells him to shut up. Kina says this is unacceptable. He protests, saying it's a baby who can't even speak properly, so how can they say he refused to kneel because of faith? The little demon says he's just saying that because he's angry, but it's true, and our hero agrees. Kina becomes agitated and says if this boy has so much faith, then why doesn't he have a stigmata? This leaves our hero confused. People start questioning why he doesn't have a stigmata, and talk among themselves about the ones they have, and how could a saint candidate not have one? Then the boy looks at him, pleased with what he's done, because he knows that among all the candidates, the baby is the only one without one. He thinks he should give up because a saint without a stigmata is impossible. The voice says that a saint candidate with no stigmata is because he's still a baby. Everyone is confused while the statue says a baby does not yet have stigmata. Kina protests again, saying that makes no sense. He asks if the statue could move the whole time, and it confirms that babies don't have them yet. Everyone protests because they want to enter, since they're candidates with stigmata. The statue says they should know that stigmata didn't appear just because they're good, and asks if they all think the same way, wanting to know if they all wish to enter the chamber. The children confirm that they do. The statue pauses, thinking about it for a moment, then says that if they all feel the same way, then fine, they may all enter the third chamber. They celebrate, happy they can enter the third chamber, but Shuri is suspicious that it was too easy. The statue adds that if they wish to fly into the flames like distracted flies, with a malicious smile, the statue concludes, then so be it. That door begins to open slowly, and a dark energy starts to emanate from that shadowy place. Children begin to feel sick with the heavy and oppressive energy. Then the voice asks if they can feel it, and explains that it's the demonic energy coming from the Skeleton King's body. It says they don't know their place, and that he was going to spare the weak who couldn't withstand this energy. The children are shocked. Our hero, on the other hand, looks excited. He stares at it full of determination, thinking this is it. That's the body of the Skeleton King, and his body is right there. With the door open, he thinks that's where his body rests, and that he never believed he'd find it again after his self-destruction in the divine realm. He's impressed by the amount of mana leaking out from inside. The statue tells them to watch the child prove his faith, to see how a brave warrior faces this. The children say it's not courage, it's that he's insane, asking what the hell is wrong with him. The voice says it's not too late. It explains that if they aren't warriors who can face death like this child, then they can just walk away. That if they turn back now, they'll be allowed to take the treasure from the second chamber. The child asks how they expected them to pass through this energy. One of the children stammers and says they should go back or they really will die here, while another asks if they can just pick the best item from the second chamber. But Kina says he doesn't need the treasures from the second chamber, and that all of them will advance to the third chamber. He also says to please activate all the traps in the third chamber. The children think he's gone mad, so the voice asks if this is truly his wish. Kina says that no saint in the past was able to bring back the Skeleton King's body, not even Melissa, who was a genius. The voice says it seems the child knows something about the third chamber. The boy thinks Melissa would never let children die, and that there must be safety measures in place. He adds that he doesn't want others saying he took the easy path, so he asks for the third chamber to be set at normal difficulty. He adds that only then will they surpass the saint, and our hero believes the kid must have a few screws loose. The voice says if that is his wish, it will comply. It explains that things were indeed made easier in order to find the true saint among the candidates. The boy says he should have gone alone, and questions why he brought everyone along. The people around start floating as something appears to rise from a lake in the middle of the treasure site. Our hero says it's almost like the demon realm is right there, and the observer tells him to take a look. Up ahead, a skeletal hand emerges, and the little demon says it's the sublime body of his master. Happy, our hero says that baby is beautiful, but then corrects himself, saying that it's his body, and that his companion must be slowly absorbing energy from the third chamber. The children are terrified, saying that's the skeleton king's body, and ask if all that power is really coming from a single hand. And our hero says it's not from the hand, calling them idiots, but from the thumb. That it's the only real fragment there. The rest is clearly a replica. It starts radiating a lot of power suddenly. It came back quickly, causing dangerous creatures to appear in that dark room. The children panic, screaming that they're demons, and conclude that the demon from the second chamber wasn't the only one there. The voice asks if it wasn't requested to disable all the safety measures in that room. Our baby observes, thinking that's not it. That creature stomps its foot, calling everyone little bastards, and asks how they dared to covet the skeleton king's body. The boys point at Kina, saying it's all his fault, and ask what he'll do now. He moves forward and says for them to trust him, that he'll make sure everyone walks out with a treasure in hand. He thinks it's one of the 14 elite demons who served under the Skeleton King and was personally trained by him, but that idiot was captured by the papal house. He had previously studied and prepared to use a sacred art to deal with it, and says the treasure is already his. Then he begins to slowly manifest his powerful sacred energy, and using all that power, he commands the demon to kneel immediately. The children around him are amazed and say it's the light of the papal house shining. Excited, Kina says it worked perfectly, and concludes that all he needs now is the Skeleton King's body, when he hears a voice asking if it's really him. He looks ahead and sees that demon watching closely. It asks if he is the one who truly covets the body of its king. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the dark treasure chamber, the older men ask what's happening inside, because they've lost contact with the demon familiar, until the boy appears, saying this is bad, and reveals that the third chamber's demon has had its seal broken. The man, a bit tense, asks Relay if the third chamber demon isn't one of the Elite 14. He also becomes worried, and you ask what's going on, because an elite demon could make the entire situation extremely dangerous. One asks about the elders who monitor the chamber. The old man says they disappeared since they went to disable the traps, and that the children must be in danger. He says there's no way a child can deal with that demon, that they must stop the ritual immediately and rescue them. When suddenly, a massive energy surge emerges from the entrance of the mysterious treasure. Everyone shields themselves from the intense light, questioning what exactly that is. They wonder if it's the treasure slowly opening, but there's a very intense and radiant light. One of the young men says to move away from the entrance, as demonic energy is leaking from it, but suddenly, one of the elders tells them to wait a moment. He points, saying he can't feel any demonic aura there. One of the elders asks if they defeated the elite demon, and a proud man thinks Kina did it. The guy assumes one of the children must have managed to defeat the demon, and asks Relay if it could have been him. The men keep talking and say it's more likely to have been Kina Barrett. Another adds that yes, it's the child with the Pope's sacred blood. They immediately begin congratulating His Eminence, saying it's no surprise he was the most favorable candidate for saint in training. The holy man explains that Kina worked hard, and then notices something nearby. He thinks that those ignorant fools who challenged the authority of the papal house will now have to bow down. Smiling in satisfaction, he believes all their dignity and honor will now fade. Someone shouts for everyone to look, because the children are returning. Relay grows tense thinking about Isaac and Shuri. Suddenly, through the portal, the shadows of the boys can be seen, as Relay silently hopes they're alright. Everyone is there, welcoming back the children who took part in the challenge. Relay notices they're all hurt, but not severely, and thinks that's a good thing. Then someone asks where the children who entered the third chamber are, while a woman wonders if something might have happened. That leaves the man genuinely concerned. But at that moment, someone shouts that the last children are finally coming out. As the boys emerge in critical condition, people shout for Amon and Shuri anxiously. Their parents run over to check if they're really okay. Goel hugs Shuri, emotional and relieved. He asks if the boy is alright and if he's not seriously hurt. Relay remains constantly worried about Isaac. He wonders where the baby might be at that moment. He hears the man beside him speaking calmly with Kina. The man quickly asks what that is in his hand, and then demands to know where the Skeleton King's body is, but the boy just stammers, trying to respond. Then the holy man asks who told him to bring that kind of thing. Suddenly, a strong light in the sky seems to draw everyone's attention. One of the men shouts for everyone to look quickly up there, and they question whether that's a wolf coming, carrying a baby firmly in its mouth. They're all surprised by this unexpected scene, and in the mouth of that wolf is our hero calmly smiling. Relay runs toward him, calling for Isaac, while Aesili follows behind. The girl is surprised and speaks about the wolf. That's the young holy dragon, and she asks if it's the treasure guardian. And she's right, that is the young dragon who guards the treasure. Relay realizes it's in wolf form, but is definitely a holy dragon, and that the matriarch invited it here because she has a good relationship with it. Then he asks who's making that loud sucking noise. Our hero appears with a very strange pacifier in his mouth. Horrified, one of the men asks if that thing he's sucking on is really what he thinks it is. They realize that what he has in his mouth is the Skeleton King's body. The elder, desperate, asks why he put that in his mouth, while another celebrates that he managed to do it and brought the Skeleton King's body back. Someone calls for Kina. While he stands there tense, the holy man asks if he gave the Skeleton King's body to the child, and once again he stammers, unable to reply. He says maybe this wasn't the brightest plan. Letting the host get some credit is a virtue a saint should have. The dragon asks what kind of nonsense they're saying and states that it was this baby who retrieved the Skeleton King's body, and calls them all fools, much to the holy man's total despair. Kina panics, seriously wondering why. He recalls what happened, asking why the holy art didn't work on him, and remembers the demon cruelly calling him filthy trash. That creature watched the children with visible fear and rushed forward to kill them mercilessly. As the creature approached, the children desperately tried to flee however they could, and a powerful impact explosion occurred. Kina tried to look through the thick smoke and dust, and an enormous defensive barrier had formed around them. He wonders what that blue holy art means. Our hero was putting in effort to protect the children, while Kina realized that it was the boy and his who did that. The demon screams in rage, calling them religious clerics and scum. Then, yelling for him to die, the creature attacks our hero, who calls him a bastard and counterattacks. In the middle of all that chaos, he asks if the creature doesn't recognize its master. People comment that a dragon wouldn't lie, and question if the little Eshua really brought that thing back, and also what exactly he did. Relay tells the great dragon that it was dangerous. He explains that one of the 14 elite demons is too much for children, and asks why he broke its seal. Excited, the dragon says to the 14 elite demons, and says that white-haired boy asked him to break the seal. A child says that was what Kina requested. He asked for the traps in the third chamber to be activated and forced them into the room, nearly getting them all killed. Someone asks if that child is the reason their son almost died, and another questions how a child from the papal house could do such a thing. They continue saying that if it weren't for baby Isaac, the demon would have been a serious problem, and someone else asks if the Eshua boy defeated Barrett's boy. Relay thinks Isaac really did well. The elders ask the boy to spit out that bone because it's dangerous, while the elder lady kindly asks the baby to behave. Our hero slaps their hands away, and someone comments on how strong he is. Isaac says the mana is really good, and wonders if it's due to the survival origin, if that's why he's absorbing it so quickly. The elder says that Isaac truly surpassed expectations, and that the matriarch will be very pleased, to which Relay agrees. She continues, saying that now that they have Fizz, they can track the Skeleton King, so they'll be able to find his soul using tracking arts. Our hero gets a little worried about that, and he wonders if that's the reason they asked him to bring his body back. All the elders get a little frantic, begging him to hand it over, saying they'll use tracking arts and finally destroy the Skeleton King once and for all. Our hero curls up, saying they're all crazy. The old man says they can finally resolve this 150-year stalemate, and asks him to hand it over. Then suddenly, that wolf lowers itself. Our hero shoves the bone into his mouth, startling everyone. And in the next instant, that creature jumps into the air flying, as they all scream his name. Meanwhile, in a very luxurious place, it seems the elders are poking around with a stick, but the woman says she doesn't believe it's there. They wonder why it hasn't come out yet. Isaac thinks they could search all day, but it still won't come out. But our baby is more worried about what happened inside the treasure. Our hero wondered if that demon couldn't recognize his master, as that demon flew off into the distance with his attack. The demon then asks if that guy might be his master. He says he thought his world had ended when he heard his master had kicked the bucket, but he always believed he could return to life. He adds that he needs to serve his master. Isaac thinks he should have stayed longer because he had so many questions to ask. He remembers being told the demon was captured by the papal house, but he can look into that later. Relay shouts in desperation for him to eat more and do what babies do in their diaper. Someone yells to bring more laxatives, while our hero thinks he'll destroy this family one day and his demon companion just laughs. The elders say if the matriarch finds out, they'll be executed, and that she'll cut the boy open to find it. Relay tells him to calm down, that it'll be fine. They say she'd already cut open her own son once, but she should go easy on her grandson. Our hero becomes a bit concerned that she actually did that. The demon asks if Melissa went on a pilgrimage with the patriarch, and our hero says yes, and that it should take some time for it to end. He thinks he should be able to finish absorbing the mana and escape before they return. The young man asks him to come along, and says the matriarch is summoning him, which surprises our hero. He gets scared, asking if his mom has already returned. You say she's never come back that quickly from a pilgrimage. Our hero thinks it must be because of him and curses the situation. He feels this is dangerous and that he still needs to absorb all that mana. Knowing Melissa, he's certain she'll open him up to take what she wants. They arrive before a pile of treasures, and someone asks if all those gifts are for Isaac. Relay relaxes and says he thought the matriarch had already returned. Then the young man calls him a coward. The man explains that they only received a message from her saying they were returning, and says he never said she was there, and our hero curses at him angrily. One of the soldiers says that the papal house also sent a tribute. The elder orders that it be sold as stolen goods, and the soldier says that the papal house's messenger is listening. Someone says His Majesty has shown great interest in this incident, and that he brought this tribute as both an apology and a sign of gratitude, but adds that it seems his gifts don't exactly match the tastes of the Eshua household. He then says he's sure they'll change their minds. Opening a box, he says His Eminence said it will be of great help to Lord Isaac. The elders look a bit surprised by that, and one of them says it's the Triple Crown. Our hero asks what that is, and his companion says it's a medal engraved with the Pope's emblem. The elders ask if it's a papal medal, while another man says that can't be. Then suddenly someone calls out for Sir Relay, and asks him to accept it, saying it belongs to young Lord Isaac. Our baby wonders why they gave it to Relay. If it belongs to him, they should have delivered it directly to him. The young man asks if he was instructed to deliver it to him instead of Isaac, and the smiling messenger confirms. He explains that he was ordered to give it to Lord Relay no matter what, and the young man becomes a little tense about that. The elder asks how he dares deliver Isaac's medal to a family member, and whether the boy is thinking straight, and questions whether he understands what it means to give such a medal to someone in the family. Then the boy explains that it means the bearer of the medal has died, and this makes our baby worried. But smiling, the messenger asks that they not misunderstand His Holiness's intentions. He only wishes for it to be delivered to the family member, while Lord Isaac is still so young, and the elder says that still doesn't explain the ribbon. He explains that the papal house clearly doesn't know the sunflower is given for the heroic acts of a fallen soldier, and our baby thinks it's meant to go in a coffin. The elder woman grows furious and asks if those bastards dare mock them because of the Eshua curse. Goel begs the elder to calm down, saying he's speaking without thinking, and the old man asks how he's supposed to stay calm like this. Then the man says he is the representative of the Eshua house and can oppose the papal house, so they must be careful not to escalate this and cause problems. He thinks he never imagined they could be made to know their place through such a hateful gift, and believes this is the work of the cardinal from his maternal family. He adds that for now, Raleigh, this brat, won't be able to run around freely like before, and that will be good for him. Then he asks what he's doing and orders him to accept the gift with gratitude, while the man protests to his brother. Goel says not to create more problems over this, while our hero says this won't be of any use. That messenger smiles kindly at him, but suddenly something seems to happen inside the box. Then he drops the box, trying to protect himself. Everyone in the room is shocked, and a massive blue energy orb appears overhead. Someone shouts that it's sacred fire. Startled, the messenger asks who could have used sacred fire on the metal. Then our hero seems to extend his arm and begin doing something. As Isaac manipulates the fire, people begin to ask if it was him. The young man asks what he thinks he's doing, and how he dares do that with the medal given by the Pope. He says this is an act of rebellion. An elder says it looks like they did it on purpose, but another says it was just a baby, asking why the man is so angry over a baby. He says it was just bad luck that this accident happened before they formally received the medal, and that they'll treat it as if it was never received, leaving the messenger shocked. The youth questions that, asking if he's supposed to just do whatever he wants. Relay asks if they're really supposed to accept a medal that was melted by a mere child, and that it was given by His Holiness the Pope. The elders are surprised, asking if the medal really melted. Then finally the messenger asks them to hand it over, saying he must have brought the wrong item. But suddenly, a blue flame begins to bloom on the young man's clothes, and it takes him completely to his horror. As the man screams, the elder speaks to the baby, saying he's a little prankster, and our hero thinks he should let him go before he sets him on fire too. The man seems to recover from the situation, and starts running out of the room, cursing all the Eshua. Happily, the old man tells Isaac it was a great job, and that it felt like he had cleansed years of frustration. The other elder asks him to throw away the medallion. Laughing, he says the matriarch should have seen the faces of those lapdogs from the Pope's family, and says Relay did a good job too. That using that sacred fire was an excellent move, which leaves the young man a bit confused. The elder tells him not to pretend to be clueless, and says he used that sacred fire as if he were Isaac. Relay asks if it wasn't only the elders who could use that magic. That leaves the elders a bit surprised. The elder says he was the one who used that magic while the baby was in the treasure vault, but Relay says he only used invisibility. This situation leaves everyone a little confused. Alarmed, they say there's no way all those sacred arts could have been used like that by someone as young as Isaac. The Book of Secret Techniques. This is a mythical treasure that allows one to instantly learn a secret technique upon using it. Our baby thinks he's happy to have brought it from the treasure, and that he's weaker now than when he was the Skeleton King, but he can still use it. The old man wonders if it could have been Isaac's mother who used the sacred art, but the elder woman says his mother doesn't have a fire attribute. Frightened, he says this is something totally different from mere talent. It would be like writing a poem without knowing how to read, and not even Melissa could do that. The girl asks the elders if the fact that he removed the Pope's blessing doesn't make this even more surprising. Then, with a sparkle in her eyes, they reply by asking if that's really the case. He asks for the medallion to be brought to him because he needs to confirm it. Relay complies with the request. He says the object isn't there, to the old man's horror. The man says it was definitely there, so Goel responds that he threw it away. They're horrified by this, but the young man replies that he was the one who asked him to do it. The man seems a bit outraged and asks him to take some people and go retrieve it. He thinks he melted the medallion that was given by the Pope and supposedly could resist any fire. He decides he can't let the Patriarch hear about this. This would become a rumor without any evidence. A few days later, in the western region of the Eshua Duchy, the Patriarch appears on that smoldering ground. He says the mansion is nearby and that they should stay focused until the end. His soldiers obey the order, but something catches his attention, and he seems surprised by what he sees. Meanwhile, in the family mansion, everyone is tense, asking why. They ask why the Skeleton King's body hasn't come out, and our hero thanks them for strengthening his body. They panic, saying they've already given 300 bottles of laxatives, along with other fruits, and Isaac thinks about this fantastic fruit that improves affinity with divine beasts. Divine beasts serve as tools or partners during battle, and it would be good for him to improve his affinity with them to defeat the Pope and then the gods. He's sure the Eshua family also possesses a divine beast. Then something truly surprises him when he sees the manifestation of House Eshua's divine beast, the Terran Bloom. Then someone says to wait and asks what happened to going to the banquet first. Then the Patriarch suddenly opens the door. Everyone in the room salutes the Patriarch. Our hero finally sees who he is, and that this makes him his grandfather. Isaac thinks he has a good feeling about him, and that the origin of survival shines strongly in him. Relay asks his father to give them some time, because it won't help to open the boy to get it out, while our hero says there's no way that's happening. The Patriarch stares at the baby. Then the head of the family points in that direction and orders them to burn him. Isaac panics, thinking everyone in the family is crazy, and wonders if his uncle is the only one he can count on. Someone says he's too young to be put in the fire. Our hero becomes tense, thinking they're saying they might incinerate him someday. Goel says he agrees that this reward is far too much for him, and our hero doesn't understand. Someone comments that it's possible to extract the Skeleton King's body by placing it in the fire, and that it can become stronger with the fire's blessing. Then Relay asks them to give him a little more time, and another man says they could just open up his belly. Tense, Relay says there's another option. Let them drown him in water instead, and our hero thinks the household is stupid and about to be ruined. Goel says that both fire and water are secret family techniques used to develop the saint, and that they can't be used on a child without ability. Someone protests that he does have ability, and Isaac realizes that must be a good thing, since the man is firmly opposing it. Then he says that Shuri is more suited for this blessing, and that in fact he was the one who defeated the demon in the treasure room. Relay says it was Isaac who did it. Goel says the dragon made a mistake, and questions how a boy who can't even walk could have defeated a demon. Relay tells him not to be illogical. He adds that the baby burned the Pope's medal, and asks him about that. But Goel says maybe someone did that in the boy's place. He adds that the most important thing is that there's no evidence. Then the Patriarch asks if he's referring to the medal. Holding it in his hand, he asks if they're talking about this one, the Pope and the gold that supports his blessing. Our hero thinks that even when he was the Skeleton King, it wasn't easy to melt that, so he wonders how it was possible. Isaac asks if maybe he became stronger in this reincarnated body. Relay asks how he managed to do it, and the Patriarch says he retrieved it from the bottom of the lake. Excited, the boy says to look at what he did. He's skilled enough to do this to the papal family's symbol, and our hero seems pleased. The boy adds that he would be able to withstand the flames of the Skeleton King, and an excited elder supports the idea. Relay mentions that their people have already lost a lot because of the Skeleton King hiding, and the elder says they need to act. His companion says they're repeating themselves, and it sounds like someone's impersonating him, but our hero thinks that'll only make things easier. The demon says he's right, while someone else says this already happened 70 years ago, when the Skeleton King appeared in the Eshua mansion and used the curse. Isaac is very surprised by this information. The boy explains they were attacked with the intent of eradicating sanctified blood, and that even thinking about the curse is infuriating. His demon says that if it was 70 years ago, it couldn't have been the master, and Isaac realizes that's why they said he wouldn't live a long life. He thinks that a demon's curse is just child's play to him, and that all he needs is to suppress it with mana. The elders say the curse would leave them sterile, and some even went bald. Our hero gets angry, asking who's pretending to be him. He's going to kill them. His companion tries to calm him down, saying baldness could just be genetic. The Patriarch steps forward and speaks about the curse. He says that by observing those red eyes, he must be cursed, and this makes our hero curious. He adds that fire and water are too weak, and the men in the room start to get a bad feeling about this. Then the man says he will grant him the Holy Spirit, leaving everyone in the room shocked. Our hero wonders what that is. The faction of the Holy Spirit can only be obtained through donation. That one must reach the transcendental rank, and even gods can't easily attain it. Our hero gets excited by this unexpected reward and thinks that once he gets the Holy Spirit, he'll reach the transcendental rank and beat the hell out of those damned gods. Goel tries to protest, saying the Holy Spirit is too much for him, that the Holy Spirit can only be granted to someone who brings honor to their house, and asks what the baby has done for them. He adds that burning the metal only provoked the Pope's family, and that they won't stay quiet about that. Our hero thinks the man is attacking him again. The patriarch looks at him seriously and tells Goel to speak up. He asks where he was when the Pope's family sent them a humiliating gift. He explains that they dared to start a fight with them on their own turf, and asks if he just let them go, and now wants to defend them. He also asks what he's doing besides criticizing that baby, and more than that, trying to take the lives of his nephews. He adds that even animals protect their babies here, and that the Ishua family is a family that protects even the small things. He tells the one who was supposed to be protected to stay silent. The pride of the family is what must be protected, and asks if that wouldn't be bringing honor to his family. He orders everyone in the house to gather in the main hall, that they are going to bless Isaac. Then, a few days later, Riley says he can't just give the sacred spirit to him, so he asks what exactly his father means by that. The patriarch asks if he didn't understand, and explains that he'll end up with a deficiency if they place him in fire or water to recover the skeleton king's body. He says that the Temple of Fire and the Temple of Water, being too powerful, reject anything demonic, and that he won't be able to learn the art of exorcism if that happens. And the fact is that if he can't surpass the 5th rank as a high priest, he'll stay at the 4th rank for the rest of his life. The patriarch says he'll let Isaac choose between fire, water, or sacred spirit, and that this should be enough as a test. Goel gets excited, thinking he knew it, that he would never give the sacred spirit to someone so easily, so he tells Isaac to choose one. Riley thinks it's the power of fire, water, or sacred spirit, hoping he picks the white orb. As our hero reaches out to take one, his brother keeps cheering for him. Finally, our hero grabs the red orb and raises it high, showing it to everyone. Goel mocks his brother, telling him not to be so disappointed. He adds that 4th rank is enough for a boy from the Ishua family to bring honor to the family. But then something happens. That little red orb begins to crack, and an enormous manifestation of fire appears in the room, leaving the elders shocked, saying this isn't the Temple of Fire. A woman with pointed ears appears in the middle of the flame. Riley is stunned by this, questioning the situation. Then the woman becomes fully visible, while someone asks if it's the sacred spirit. The elders seem tense about the situation. Goel asks his father how this is possible, and why there's a sacred spirit inside that orb. The patriarch tells him to stop causing a scene. He adds that he never said there was only one sacred spirit among them. He explains that water is the foundation of the Eshua, but even so, Isaac melted the Pope's medallion with fire. He says he set a trap in the last test, but that he chose correctly, and that this is still unexpected. Suddenly, the creature screams for Ile Eshua, saying he must have completely lost control. She asks how he dares to summon her, she who holds the rank of a king, into the human realm. She begins to gather her immense fire power, and starts releasing it into the room in a violent and terrifying wave. The elders shout to immediately use sacred defensive arts. Goel asks how his father could summon a king, and if he plans to burn down their entire domain. But the patriarch points and says he didn't summon her, that it was that child who actually did it. He smiles, impressed with the baby, and adds that he's definitely going to die right there in that instant. That entity begins to float through the room, spreading fire. Isaac tenses up, thinking he only used a bit of sacred power to summon a mid-rank, and wonders how the hell he ended up summoning a royal rank. He questions what he might have summoned if he had really tried hard. As she manifests her power, he asks if these are anti-demonic flames. He concludes that they definitely are, the kind of flames that convert mana into sacred power. The demon says this will be a great help to the master, and he agrees with the comment, but then wonders how exactly he's supposed to make her submit, while the observer suggests if maybe it's about doing it properly. Our hero says that royal rank spirits are connected to the heavens, and that he can't approach those bastards yet, to which the observer agrees. He says that all those spirits are close to the gods, while someone screams for the patriarch to send her back. A desperate elder points and says it's a mad spirit, that even the gods would give up on her. The man says that if he were also judged for the color of his hair, he would have cut ties with the gods too. Our hero wonders if that's why the spirit is condemning them now. The woman screams, ordering the insignificant humans to shut their mouths. She asks the patriarch what he's thinking, summoning her for a ritual of subjugation, and he explains that it wasn't him who summoned her. She screams that it makes no sense, that he must have used his authority as patriarch to summon her, but the man points to the baby, saying it was him, and the woman is left speechless by that. Agitated, she says the man must be insane, asking if he sacrificed a small child to summon her. But the patriarch says that's not what happened. Then he says that even with his house crumbling, they've gone too far, and asks what he plans to do with that baby, and asks what the hell is wrong with him. Our hero thinks she's hostile toward the gods and decides to keep her, thinking he can use her as a filter for his mana. So the woman decides to see for herself, saying if this was the baby who summoned her, then he should survive this attack. She hurls a massive fireball at our hero. The attack hits its target while Relay shouts for Isaac. Smiling, she says it's better if he meets a peaceful end by her hands. But the next moment, she's shocked to see our hero crawling around unharmed. The patriarch asks if she's convinced now, saying that it was indeed this baby who summoned her. Then he tells her to choose, either form a contract with the baby or refuse and receive her punishment. Annoyed, she laughs and asks about the punishment, questioning if he thinks she'd be worried about that, saying she could burn down the whole house and claim her freedom. She points at him, telling him to watch all his lands burn, calling him a stupid whale. Then, in the next moment, our hero just bites the woman. She screams, nearly being swallowed, calling him a damn lunatic, while Relay runs to him, shouting that he can't eat her. Someone screams for him not to dare swallow this time, and the woman starts to get worried about the situation. The woman screams in desperation, saying they're all screwed, and asks how they expect to take care of this child. She tells them to wait patiently, that she's going to retreat now, but will be back for revenge. Our hero quickly realizes she's using teleportation. Happy, she uses her magic and says she'll see them soon, while insulting them. But in the next moment, nothing actually happens. The demon looks a little pleased with the situation. She nervously asks why it's not working, and insists on casting the spell again with force. Then she curses the baby, saying this is dark magic. The patriarch confirms, saying he swallowed the Skeleton King's finger, and she asks what the hell they've been feeding that baby. Isaac says that holy spirits are the purest beings of their entire faction, practically personified sacred energy, and therefore weak against darkness. The woman feels like she's losing her strength and starts feeling sick. She begs him to stop, while the patriarch says this is unfortunate. He explains that the Skeleton King's power is too great for them to get near. The woman protests, asking if they're all insane. Ilay says that if she stays with his grandson and purifies all the Skeleton King's dark energy, then he'll send her back. She asks what he's been smoking, and if he has any idea who she is. The patriarch tells her she's free to stay and be devoured. Furious, she says they're all mad, and that's why she hates everyone, and that if they weren't of sacred blood, she would have already dealt with this. She decides that enough is enough, and says she'll use this brat to destroy that bastard. Our hero asks what she's talking about, escalating the tension. Desperate, she begs them to give her 4 days, just 4 days with the child. The woman says 4 days is enough for just one finger, and Ilay thinks 4 days sounds a bit desperate. He orders the castle gates opened, and that the child and the spirit be taken inside, and that no one is to enter until purification is complete. The two brothers grow tense and start to protest, but the man says that's enough, and that he won't listen to them. Finally, our baby spits the woman out of his mouth. Isaac realizes that this part of the castle is next to the annex where the mana cores are located. Then, in the indicated Ishua family castle, a massive fire explosion occurs. Someone says it's another explosion, and asks if it was Lord Isaac. Then someone corrects them, saying it's the Skeleton King and his mana. One of them asks if the next in line would be Goel or his brother, and the maid asks if Lord Isaac has been cursed and is no longer contained. The young man asks if Lord Isaac is really cursed. The boy says he's telling her, and that yesterday, a servant went to check and ran away terrified. A man says he heard that he has the form of a bald man, and the woman questions whether it wouldn't be a skinless monster or a skeleton. Then a girl says that now that she thinks about it, he's there with the Holy Spirit. She adds that it's already been 10 years while the whole structure burns in flames. Meanwhile, at the Eshua mansion, a loud, high-pitched scream is heard, and another maid runs desperately through the hallway, but she finally reaches that imposing double door. Then, determined, she opens it saying she has arrived for Lord Isaac. With a worried look, she asks if he's okay at that moment, and our baby is just calmly sucking on his lollipop. The woman wonders how strong the Skeleton King's curse must be for him to still be that small. Our hero thinks he's small like this on purpose, and that's because a baby absorbs power much better than anyone else, and there's a level you can only reach if you remain a baby. The Holy Spirit stretches, saying her body hurts, while the girl asks Lord Isaac if he slept well. She already wakes up a little annoyed, cursing and saying she'll purify this baby no matter what, and says she was almost done with it yesterday. She curses our hero and asks how he has so much more dark energy today. She calls him a cursed monster and asks how much of the Skeleton King he ate, and how there can be so much mana after 10 years. Our hero thinks it's because he's been absorbing mana cores over those 10 years, and the observer comments he didn't expect there to be so many in the annex. He adds that he thought his master would take about 40 years, but he managed to absorb everything in 10, and our hero says he finally collected it all. He explains that he didn't learn properly since he had to figure it out on his own, but now he's also able to use rank 6 spells. The girl worriedly asks if everything is going well with the master, and that the Pope is also mobilizing. Isaac seems a bit curious about the Pope. She adds that he's going to execute all of the Skeleton King's servants who threaten the Empire, that they're considering draining the last bit of mana from his skeleton as soon as possible, and says not to worry. Mosuro doesn't seem very pleased about it. Then she gives him a candy and asks him to rest. Isaac thinks about that damn fraud and says he needs to do something about it as soon as possible. That's when someone laughs in the distance, saying that Shuri did well. He not only skipped a subject but also became the youngest ordained priest. Goel says he'd heard even the princess will be there for his ordination, and says that for him, being top of the class and being escorted by the princess herself is a great honor. But Shuri says it's nothing, since in the end, he's still his son. Goel gets all puffed up, saying his son has grown and become humble, and thanks him for doing so well. Suddenly, Shuri is no longer there, and the man keeps calling out to him repeatedly. Then the boy appears somewhere else, falling in desperation, and he slams hard onto the ground. Then our hero greets Shuri calmly, asking with an evil face if he really wants to die. He asks if he can't stop lying, and if he really thinks he could walk away just because he got into the academy, while Shuri gets a bit panicked about it. Isaac says he only got everything he has because our hero trained him. The boy says he tried his best, and asks if Isaac thinks it's easy being top of the class, and our hero replies that it would be impossible for Shuri. Our baby thinks he needs to start preparing for that too, since most holy spells are only available once you become ordained. Then jumping out of there, he says Shuri will help him, and the boy stammers asking why him and why now. But our hero just gives him an evil look, and the boy quickly asks what he can do for him. Isaac orders him to hand over everything he got, the money from the quiz competition and everything Goel gave him. Shuri thinks he's evil. The baby says that's it, and asks him about this story of the Skeleton King's subjects being killed. Shuri explains that after the treasure incident, it seems they no longer obey and are just waiting for death, so they're being executed. Our hero says there's nothing he can do, and that he'll take care of it within a year. And Shuri doesn't understand, asking what he's talking about. He replies that it's about priest ordination. Shuri says he's not even in the academy, asking how he plans to do that. Then our hero asks if he was laughing and pretending to behave. He answers that he wasn't. Shuri says there's a recommendation system in the academy, and with such a letter he can be ordained if he passes the test, but he must prove his character first. He then starts stammering, saying that Isaac is kind of a bastard, and the observer says this brat can see right through him. He explains he could only get a recommendation if he did something big, like saving someone's life, and our hero thinks he has only 1 month left. He asks the guy if the princess is going there, and Shuri answers yes, stammering slightly. He also asks if the princess holds a high position in the local society. Some time later, in the silent Eshua training grounds, the patriarch orders them to return immediately, and says that Isaac will not go to the capital at this moment. A man tells his lord that he knows this year is different, that they must go to the festival, and that's where all the saint candidates will be ordained. The patriarch is surprised by this information. While all the other candidates made a name for themselves over the past 10 years, Isaac remained reclusive. And excitedly, the man asks if he didn't perform an unbelievable feat in the relic warehouse 10 years ago. They say they heard he's in the East Wing like all saints before were, and they're excited to see how much he's grown. The guy says that as an academy educator, it's his life's wish to teach Lord Isaac, and this ordination is on the same date as the princess's birthday. So even the Pope will be present, and the patriarch becomes thoughtful about the Pope. He will personally grant hero titles to those who are ordained, and Alei is surprised by this information. Receiving the title of hero multiplies one's strength, and that would be a huge benefit. The patriarch says Isaac isn't big enough to be ordained yet, and the girl questions what meaning age has in the face of talent. The situation gets a bit tense there. Then he says to do as they wish, and the people are very happy, but the patriarch adds a condition. He says all of them must take responsibility for their words. Meanwhile, our hero is in his chambers being massaged by his servant friend Shuri. From afar, a man watches all that fire in the mansion. Then he concludes that he's there. He thinks that summoning and contracting a royal rank spirit is something not even the Pope could maintain for long. He knows it's a black-haired fire spirit, one that besides guarding the barriers to paradise couldn't become king due to its temperament. Excited, the man thinks the Pope and his family love collecting spirits, and if he manages to steal that spirit and bring it to them, he'll surely be well rewarded. The man also knows he has a way to neutralize divine mana, so his preparation is complete. Because if he suppresses the divine mana of that brat, the Skeleton King's dark mana will certainly go berserk. He concludes he just needs to smuggle out that spirit while everything is in chaos. Already inside the residence, someone says this is the room for the professor, and a woman says she'll finally see the young lord, while another person confirms it. Then she enters, calling for Lord Isaac, and the man says it's like he said, he looks the same as 10 years ago. Our hero then notices someone approaching and gives his best gentle look to those who will give him a recommendation. Then suddenly the two people from the academy feel something in their hearts, and excited and full of love, they say to go to the academy now, while that older man thinks this little fox is trying to charm people. He decides he'll throw everything he has to make the Skeleton King's mana go berserk. Then he grabs our hero and hugs him using his power, thinking for it to go berserk now. But what follows is a long silence. Then our baby just looks at the man and smiles. The old man wonders why nothing is happening, and that he used enough sacred mana to make the dark mana manifest. Then, from atop our baby's head, the spirit asks what that unbearable brat is doing, and commands him to kill the damn priest. The man becomes tense, thinking it's the royal rank spirit. He realizes this might be his chance, so he grabs a kind of cloth and wipes Isaac's face, saying he's sweating because of the heat, but our hero seems to notice a strange smell on it. He's in disbelief, thinking the priest is a deceitful bastard. But in the next moment, that fire spirit seems to sense something strange. The professor calmly asks what exactly is going on. Then she begins manifesting her fiery power intensely. It looks like she's spiraling out of control again, dangerously. The old man questions if she's destabilizing because of the Skeleton King's mana, and the woman tells the professor that this is dangerous. Finally, the old man thinks everything is going well, and that now he just needs to smuggle the spirit. He then breaks something, thinking it's the right time. He focuses all his power in the palm of his hand, and uses a flame spell on that threatening spirit. The attack hits the woman squarely, without fail, but something seems to be happening beyond what he had originally planned, and a powerful fire attack strikes him directly. Our hero looks shameless and satisfied, confident. Relay runs into the room together with Silly, both worried about Isaac. Our baby asks if that should be enough, and says it's perfect since now they have enough spectators. Then he concentrates and begins to use his energy. That energy fills the entire room. The professor is surprised and asks if Lord Isaac is absorbing the mana, while the woman says yes, and that he's calming her fury. In the next moment, our hero simply looks gently and calmly. He thinks this properly handles the mana, and commands her to stop as well, immediately. In the following moment, that energy is slowly dispelled from the fire spirit. Relay is surprised that he used Divine Azure, and his assistant is clearly impressed as well. The fire spirit now appears calm, with no manifestation of energy. Then she wakes up, looking a bit tense and suspicious. The professor is surprised that he was able to control the dark mana, and the woman says he also calmed the fire spirit, while Shellac questions what just happened. People comment that it's a miracle, while his brother and tutor approach concerned. Excited, they say he finally spoke, and add that they're proud of him. Isaac feels disappointed that this is the only thing they noticed. Then they grab the baby and start tossing him up in celebration. That old man curses the situation, asking what the hell just happened. Shellac says that's what he should be asking, calling him a lowly servant of the Golden Church. She demands to know who's behind this with a demonic expression. He stammers that she's mistaken, and that he only came there to meet with Lord Isaac, but she doesn't accept the excuse. She points out he's wearing fire-resistant clothes from head to toe, and asks if she's really wrong. She declares that from now on, all fire spirits will cut ties with priests associated with the Pope. She adds that she's only doing this because she's extremely pissed off and hopes he doesn't get the wrong idea about it. The man begs her to wait. He asks how spirits could break contracts with priests on their own, especially when it comes to the Pope. While he says it's impossible, she tells him to go to hell, and says she cut ties with the gods a long time ago and doesn't follow those rules anymore. Our hero looks a bit too pleased with the situation. Then she tells him to get out of her way. She approaches Isaac and says he saved her with divine mana and managed to control the Skeleton King's mana. Then she explains that now that the Skeleton King's mana has been purified, their contract ends here, but she will stay with him to repay her debt. The professors say they will now return to the Sancta headquarters and report what happened, because a child of this caliber must be coordinated no matter what. Relay stands before his father. The patriarch reads in the document that Sancta headquarters approved Isaac's ordination. They want the boy to attend the ordination ceremony, and Relay thinks it was fast, wondering if it's because he saved people. But the patriarch says it was because he saved the royal rank spirit. Relay says that after doing something like that, no one can oppose him. He adds that before that, being ordained is the same as graduating from the academy, so he tested Isaac to see if he had the necessary knowledge. Showing his son, he says Isaac took a perfect test, getting all 1,600 questions right. Relay is proud and also surprised by that information. He says he doesn't want anything now, and that Isaac can walk and talk normally too, so the patriarch says his attitude is just shameful. He adds that he needs to test him personally now, saying that the person to pass ordination can't be immoral or show any kind of criminal behavior. Relay says he remembers that, and that it's a test with holy magic that forces the person to speak the truth. During the test, our hero says he will conquer everything and that it all belongs to him. Relay finds him witty. The patriarch is surprised but agrees. In another question, they ask what he will do once ordained, and he replies that he will get rid of all the gods. And in a third question, he answers that he will destroy this entire country, which leaves Relay a little shaken. The patriarch says only Relay and himself saw these results. His brother is worried because if Isaac takes another test like that when he's ordained, he'll be executed for heresy. The patriarch says he will be ordained in Isaac's place, and orders that Isaac must not leave the house in the meantime. He adds that Isaac still needs a bit of education first. Meanwhile, in a room in that residence, a demon calls for his master, asking if he's made his decision, and our hero says he certainly has. Isaac seems to be holding a bundle with several things, as he heads toward the window, saying he's going to make a run for it. Sometime later at the Roman Academy in the capital, in the division of holy magic, someone comments that they heard a 10-year-old will be ordained this time, and questions what he did to be ordained so early, saying it's kind of crazy, and someone else adds that this ceremony will be quite interesting. A red-haired boy starts laughing. He questions the idea of a child who can barely walk being ordained and says it's nonsense. The other person is surprised by that, and the boy explains that he hasn't changed at all in the last 10 years, that he was cursed by the Skeleton King and couldn't grow. Turning to another side, he asked Shuri if that's right. Mocking the situation, he asks how that brat could be ordained, saying it must just be an honorary title. Shuri thinks they're annoying bastards, and that the baby had been quiet for a while, but here they go again. The boy keeps going and says that even a brat can be ordained if he's from the House of Saints, adding that it's pretty inappropriate. Shuri stands up thinking the kid's a bastard and wondering how he dares. Someone approaches and asks Nizer Sipet if he thinks the Sancta headquarters is some kind of joke, and adds that the one who accepted Isaac's recommendation was his father, Duke Leon Sipet, then says he assumes he's not stupid enough to insult his own father. The red-haired boy tells him to shut up, saying he's not even a student at the academy, so asks what he's doing there, and the boy replies that he was invited. He adds that he was asked to instruct the graduates as a mentor and as a holy magic instructor. He tells Shuri that he truly worries him, and that makes the boy nervous, asking why. He explains that there's no way someone cursed like Isaac can become a priest, and that House Eshua would be better if Shuri became the patriarch. He tells Shuri to come find him if his house falls into ruin, because he'll secure him a replacement position in the Pope's household. The boy thinks he has to calm down because now is not the time. Approaching Kina, he says he doesn't need her help. Then he walks out of the room, telling her to worry about herself. Sometime later in those dorms, someone throws a book on the floor while shouting. Shuri yells that it's those rat bastards, wondering why this kind of nonsense happens to him. He says his family didn't come to his ordination because that bastard ran away. He wonders why that jerk who can't be saved did that now. He hopes he loses all his hair like the Skeleton King. Suddenly, coming out of a hole in the floor, our baby appears asking what he's saying, getting Shuri a huge scare. Isaac asks about his hair and asks if he wants to die, and Shuri is startled, asking how he got there. Our hero says he's there to be ordained, and that the patriarch and his uncle tried to stop him, but he escaped. Pulling something from his clothes, he says it doesn't matter, and showing something, he calls the boy a little weakling. While the boy tries to defend himself in fear, asking what's coming next. He asks if he's been walking around receiving offers for certain positions in the Pope's house. But while the boy says no, our hero hits him squarely and tells him to shut up. Isaac yells that those bastard scum dare to disrespect the name Eshua, that Eshua belongs to him, and he will be the only one allowed to insult them and bring them to ruin. Shuri asks what the hell he's talking about. The baby tells him to remember it, that he'll be the one to burn down the Eshua house, while Shuri cries on the floor begging God to please take this bastard away. Jumping off the bed, Isaac tells him not to be a baby and to get up and show the way. Shuri asks where he's going, and the boy says it's to deal with the one who mocked him. Sometime later, in a room full of young people, a girl asks what this is and who brought this little child here, while another says his hair is really beautiful. Our hero smacks the thing against a chair and says he'd like to know who, then demands to know who dared to mess with the Eshua, but no one answers his question. Our hero says he remembers that redhead from the relic warehouse 10 years ago, as Shuri comes running, asking him to wait. The boy runs in desperation, thinking he needs to stop him because he might cause a huge problem there. He thinks that girl is Nizer's sister, and her name is Naki Sepet. Shuri suddenly leaps and says he caught him, but the next moment, the baby is already on the table in front of the red-headed girl. He asks if she knows who it was that messed with Shuri. The girl says she never bothered Shuri Yeshua, and that the one who did it was Nizer. Isaac says so she admits it, and the girl says it wasn't her, it was Nija Sepet, asking if he's not hearing anything. His demon says it senses a familiar energy coming from this girl, and the baby agrees there's something familiar there, that this is the energy of one of the 5 great gods. She points her finger at the baby and says he must be Isaac from the rumors, says he's the cursed child, and another says he's a child from the Pope's family, claiming that the Azures won't be able to replace anything this year. She says it won't be long until the Eshua are removed from the 5 faiths. Isaac thinks that considering how rude she is, she must be from one of the houses that serve the 5 gods. Shuri, desperate, says they can't antagonize the Crimson House and begs him to just go home, but our hero tells him to shut up because he's there for the ordination. The girl says he'll never be ordained, and that Nizer can protest to the Pope and it'll be cancelled. Asking why an unverified child would be ordained, Shuri gets furious thinking Nizer is a bastard. She continues and says that with the way he acts, he'll probably be cancelled even before Nizer's protest when someone calls out to the lady. That person asks if they could call an inquisitor in this case. Shuri panics because 70% of the inquisitors are from the Red House. He grabs Isaac and says they have to go, when suddenly a noise grabs everyone's attention. The paw of a shadowy creature appears, and a massive wolf roars in the middle of the hall with people running and screaming that a monster has appeared. The youths tell everyone to run, and our hero concludes that his backup has arrived. They ask if that monster escaped from the training rooms. The man from the Crimson House tells the lady to move behind him because it's dangerous. Then suddenly the creature rushes in and strikes the man. It then threatens to hit the girl directly. She asks when he did that, but at that moment, our baby appears, calling her attention. He shouts for her to wait and hits that massive monster head on. Isaac says he asked for this, but it arrived too late. That creature doesn't seem to have been defeated, and Naki calls him a monster and begins using her flame power over our hero's protest. He gets tense about it and curses the situation while using his power. That massive fire heads toward the creature and hits it. Suddenly, it seems the creature's focus has shifted, and the creature starts running in another direction, whimpering. The demon feels proud of his master and says he handled the creature as part of his plan, while Isaac says he did what needed to be done. Suddenly, several men burst through the door shouting and asking where the monster is. He orders them to stay away from the monster, saying he thinks it went that way and tells them to contact the monster division. The man approaches the girl, asking if his lady is alright, and Shuri wonders if he's an inquisitor. He grabs Isaac, saying they're getting out of there, but the man tells him to stop and that he can't leave until the investigation is complete, and Shuri thinks this is the end of the line. He looks a bit awkward and says they don't know anything, laughing nervously. The girl gets worked up, telling him not to do anything pointless right now, and she points at the child, saying he saved her with courage. Isaac and Shuri are a bit surprised by this unexpected attitude. She gets closer and asks if his name is really Isaac. She apologizes for what she said earlier, looking a little embarrassed. She explains she's not particularly grateful or anything like that toward him. Our hero asks what's up with her, and someone comments that he received a recommendation after saving some people. They're surprised to think that it was actually true, while that girl is shocked to see he's just a child. She believes he's the child her brother mentioned. This is Princess Charlotte of the Empire. Meanwhile, in Alay's office at the Eshua mansion, someone asks why he, Cardinal Azure, keeps refusing, and also if being ordained wouldn't be good for his grandson. He asks him to just allow him to respond to the ordination, but the Patriarch orders him to shut up. The person on the other end says His Holiness the Pope is irritated, but he says that's not his problem, and that his grandson will be educated at the mansion until he's grown. The person says that if he keeps the child locked away like this, he'll have serious problems in the future, but the Patriarch thinks he already has them. Then someone asks him if he heard the news, that apparently there's a silver-haired baby walking around the academy area. He shouts for Relay, who answers immediately though tense. He runs to his father, asking what it is, and the man says they're going to the capital now, and that they need to arrive there by tomorrow, which leaves the boy confused. Relay says that even taking the fastest route, it would take a week, and his father says they have 23 hours and 48 minutes left, and so they'll need to run. Sometime later the next day, someone knocks on a door, asking what Isaac is doing. The boy asks if he's trying to fit his little body into a priest's robe and tells him to come out quickly because everyone's waiting. He says everyone will laugh either way, so he asks him if they can just move on. From inside, our hero says he's finished, while the boy desperately begs him to just give up and go home, and says he's begging him, but something he sees terrifies him, though he seems excited by what he sees, while our hero says they can go now. On the final day in the banquet hall of the Great Foundation and Ordination Festival, all those young people are chatting excitedly with one another, until someone asks everyone to please stand up quickly, and the patriarchs of the houses begin to enter the hall solemnly, as everyone in the hall claps enthusiastically for all of them. Goel thinks these are the 5 patriarchs of the greatest houses, and that the next patriarch of Eshua and Cardinal of Azure will be him. Suddenly someone approaches saying he's not late after all, and his brother is surprised to see Relay arriving. He asks if his brother has seen Isaac, and Goel asks why he's looking for him there when he should be at home. The man is shocked by his appearance, asking if he ran all the way there, and Relay says yes, then asks if he knows where Shuri is. But Goel says he hasn't heard yet, when suddenly someone says His Holiness is coming, and the same person tells everyone to pay their respect. That old man is Chulio Berate, the Pope. Someone shouts that the blessing of the gods is with Hela, and everyone bows in respect to the Pope. As the old man approaches his seat, people whisper at the side of Hela. Finally, the Pope sits in his luxurious seat. Then a voice tells all the honored guests to be seated, while the Patriarch thinks he doesn't see Isaac. They announce that the ordination will begin, and those who have been summoned should step forward, and Alay thinks that's a relief. Suddenly, someone calls out for Isaac Eshua. The person asks if he's there and insists, calling for him again, and the Patriarch questions why he keeps calling for someone who isn't present. But in the next moment, someone answers yes, and the man spits out his drink. Goel says this is a disgrace and asks how he dares to walk in there. Then our hero appears, but with the appearance of a young boy. Everyone around is shocked by this. Then the voice commands Isaac to step forward. Relay stands up, shocked by the sight. He cries, emotional, asking when Isaac grew up so much, and that he even managed to wear the priest clothes Relay made for him. People begin commenting that they heard he was still a baby, asking if he managed to defeat the Skeleton King's curse, and saying he looks handsome. Nizer shouts asking what the hell is going on, and how he grew up so fast. But our hero simply walks forward, smiling confidently. The Patriarch curses the Skeleton King, asking what the hell he did to Isaac. He adds that this child doesn't smile like that, and wonders if he might be possessed. Someone comments that maybe the Eshua curse has now ended. They murmur that he looks like a saint, and not cursed at all. Another person says he looks blessed. Our hero arrives in front of the Pope, who smiles and says his name. Isaac thinks that this is the Pope, that he looks over 70 but radiates immense energy. Besides, he hasn't just seen popes, he's fought many of them over the years. The boy wonders if he should just slit his throat right there. He remembers what he said he would do when he stood before the Pope, that he would separate his head from his body. The Patriarch thinks he needs to be stopped, so he slams the table in front of him with a powerful blow, saying his hand just slipped. And Relay flips the table into the air, yelling that there's a cockroach. Goel asks if they're going crazy and thinks there was only one of them. Then the person says the next to step forward will be Shuri Eshua, asking him to come forth, while Isaac thinks these bastards are trying to stop him. At that moment, the young man from the Eshua house approaches. The Pope watches serenely. The master of ceremonies says the one to be ordained should offer their respects to the god. Someone asks if this is the moment for the god's selection, curious about which god will bless his son. Relay and his father watch as someone brings in a massive chalice. The patriarch says it will probably be the holy patron of the Azures, and his son hopes that's true. A bit tense, the young man asks if there's no chance a dark god could come to him, and his father says that in such a case, they'll move straight to destruction. This makes Relay a bit afraid. Someone comments that it's a bowl of holy water, and wonders what Isaac meant. Shuri approaches and cuts his finger, letting the blood drop into the bowl. The drop falls into the holy water, and a manifestation of blue energy appears above them. Goel gets excited, saying this is what he expected from his son, that the holy patron of the Azures came personally. Our hero then realizes that the god Ishua serves as this pure-hearted god of light. He pierces his own finger, thinking to himself, well then and concludes he won't be satisfied no matter who shows up here. Our hero lets his finger drip slowly into that bowl of holy water, and the Pope seems a bit tense with everything happening. Then the holy water visibly starts to ripple, and the chalice begins to manifest a powerful, mysterious energy. Relay and the Patriarch watch from a distance, closely. Not even Relay seems to believe what he's seen before his eyes. The image that forms before Isaac is that of the fearsome Skeleton King. Someone screams, asking if that's the Skeleton King. At that moment, the Patriarch leaps toward the creature. Our hero is surprised by the situation, and the Patriarch rushes forward, charging his fist with energy. Then he strikes the creature, yelling for it to die. But that skeleton avoided the attack and is carrying Isaac away in chains. The cursed creature says it had been waiting for this saint to arrive, and this leaves our hero a bit confused. The Skeleton King then says he will destroy the sacred empire piece by piece, starting with this one. Isaac is confused, asking what's going on with him. He thinks he looks exactly the same as before. The observer becomes furious, asking what this imposter is, and says that his master is much more than a loser and an idiot like this, while someone tries to get the creature's attention. The Patriarchs and the Pope prepare for battle, and energy attacks fly toward the cursed creature. A huge explosion erupts in front of Relay, and he tries to shield himself from it. He orders the people to get back, and the Patriarch gathers his power again, charging at the monster. He attacks the creature by summoning a massive magical serpent. The attack appears to hit the skeleton squarely, but in the middle of the dust and debris, a skeletal voice calls for the Patriarch of the Azures, and there from the center, the Skeleton King emerges without a single scratch. The demonic being says the Patriarch's powers are limited by his curse, and adds that it would be better if he just stayed quiet. Relay says he didn't want to act because he might bring the entire building down. Suddenly, he starts manifesting a large amount of magical energy and says he'll do it anyway because the creature talks too much. The skeleton seems unfazed by his power. The creature asks if he wants to see this little saint die. Frightened, our hero wonders what he's talking about. He thinks his grandson is being used as a hostage and that his grandfather is summoning a creature like that, and is horrified by its massive open mouth. The Patriarch says that he's a saint. He wouldn't die from that, while Isaac thinks he's an insane bastard. He screams in desperation that this will definitely kill him, when suddenly a huge explosion of blue energy floods the entire area. Our hero tries to protect himself from the debris flying through the air, and the Skeleton King finally seems to be affected by the intense energy. That blue energy glows powerfully in the very center of the place, and everyone around slowly starts to recover from it. One of the men says the Skeleton King has returned, another says he hasn't been active for 70 years since he cursed them. He believes the Skeleton King had been gathering strength and waiting until this moment, but our hero thinks no, slamming his hand on the ground. Furious, he thinks that Bastard is an imposter. Relay calls out to Isaac, asking if he's okay. Someone says they know he's an Eshua, but asks if he's alright after all that. Didn't the Skeleton King call him a saint? The people wonder if the Skeleton King is dead now and believe he is, because the Patriarch of the Azures defeated him with his wail. Our hero says there's no way he's dead, and that what they saw was only an illusion. The observer says it was just a shadow clone, but that something external was with it, and Isaac asks if he noticed that too. Our hero realized he was using his mana. He wonders if perhaps his mana core ended up somewhere before, since there was a piece of his body in the relic vault. It's not exactly impossible. Isaac thinks that if this imposter has his mana core, that's even better, because he can just kill him and take it back. The Patriarch seems relieved about something and thinks Isaac is back. He remembers the Skeleton King with his grandson, and that if he hadn't attacked, the Pope would have killed Isaac along with the monster. He looks angrily at the old man. While the man is healing one of the boys, the Patriarch wonders why. The Pope thinks he can't believe this. He thinks of the great God, the god the Golden House revered for thousands of years. In disbelief, he thinks that this is the god who presides above the 5 major gods, and that he almost chose that brat named Eshua. The Pope discreetly observes that strange boy. Then the patriarch approaches and calls for Isaac calmly, telling him to come along because they're going back now, and happily says that his grandson defeated the Skeleton King's curse and grew up looking very handsome. While our hero wonders why he's smiling so weirdly, he says that this grandfather will buy him sweets, while Isaac asks if he really thinks that'll make him go with him. He looks like he's trying to drag him to the slaughterhouse, when suddenly Kina calls for the Duke in concern, and comments that she doesn't believe Isaac actually wants to go back now. Then, out of nowhere, chunks of rock fly in all directions, and demonic creatures appear in every dark corner. Those things charge quickly toward where our hero is. Kina adds that there are still some things that need to be sorted out over here. Isaac tells the patriarch that this simply can't be avoided, and that he has no intention of returning anytime soon. Our hero steps forward determined. Kina thinks he's an arrogant bastard, and that he grew up very quickly, and wonders if he's a saint. Our Isaac thinks he doesn't know why he's doing this, but he'll take advantage of him however he can. Then the two boys advance, while he thinks he's going to show him who the real saint here is. Our hero focuses his power into the palm of his hand. Then he uses a purification spell, causing all the monsters in the area to go on the defensive. The people there think the spell is splendid, since such a clear light hasn't been seen in hundreds of years. And yes, he's using a purification spell. He doesn't even try to explain that it's a magic with purifying properties, and that maybe he's trying to stop more monsters from appearing. He thinks it used to be only Chalak who could learn such spells, but once you reach the 6th level of purification, you can inflict damage over time in an area. Those creatures now seem to be feeling the strength of our hero's attack. He was thinking about the true purpose of purification magic, when now interrupts and tells him to move, saying he can't defeat them with that spell. Kina thinks he used only a rank 5 spell, and believes he's 1 in a billion. But he still believes he himself is more talented, and tells our hero to watch as he needs to attack from multiple angles with holy magic. But something seems to break his concentration at that moment. Right behind him, Isaac struggles to keep from dying of laughter. Kina asks if he still hasn't learned what those monsters are, explaining that they have strong regeneration, so they must be taken out with a powerful strike. At that moment, our hero can't hold it anymore and starts laughing. He says that this bastard really knows nothing, thinking maybe he should let the Azure Patriarch deal with him. Isaac says all of those were just bait, but Kina doesn't seem to understand it properly. He explains that the main threat should be nearby. Our hero uses his power, concentrating it and directing it to that exact spot, and suddenly says he's finally found it. Then Kina asks what he's going to do with that little insect, but Isaac quickly stabs it with a sharp weapon, and a loud scream and explosion of energy happens immediately after. He explains that the creature was slowly poisoning everyone in the area. He says this one is dangerous because it poisons slowly, and you never find out why you're dying. Someone comments that a moment ago the Skeleton King said he was going to destroy all of them. Isaac says he needs to take down all the trainee priests to destroy the Empire. Desperate, the men shout for them to find all the hidden insects, telling those affected to seek magical detox treatment. But something else seems to catch our hero's attention. A surge of energy begins appearing all around. One of the boys tells him to wait because if they kill all of them too quickly, and that energy begins to spread through the room. His demon tells him it's an opportunity, telling him to purify those who have fallen to gain recognition, and Isaac says he's a genius. While he celebrates, saying this is great, the Pope appears using a rank 9 holy spell. He arrives at the center of the room and uses a powerful magic to quickly absorb the mana. This leaves both boys very surprised and confused. Satisfied, he says no one else will be poisoned in that place. Our hero gets annoyed, thinking the Pope didn't really help much in that situation. But suddenly, a strange creature returns to the scene. That wolf tells our hero that he won't be forgotten for disobeying the great sovereign king, and that he will take at least one with him, without a doubt. Then Isaac sees him approaching quickly, and suddenly turns, with the creature right on top of him. But the monster hesitates for a second, wondering what that mysterious power is. The creature turns and runs away, while Isaac thinks to himself, this little idiot thinks he can hurt me. Someone says they finished clearing everything, and that the injured should be moved to the infirmary immediately. Kina is shocked because he thinks Isaac just made a monster retreat by looking at it. He seems quite disturbed by the situation, and wonders how this could have happened, since only someone like the Pope could do something like that. The Skeleton King appeared at the ordination. He backed off after being overpowered. Who is the saint that the Skeleton King mentioned? Some murmurs spread. Someone says it looks like there was a problem with the holy water bowl, and someone explains that it was an illusion summoning spell, and the bowl is being investigated. One of the patriarchs asks if they're saying the outside presence was the issue, but Barrett says that was a separate matter, and that the issue is with the Empire's barrier, which is protected by their sacred dragon. Sometime later at that luxurious residence, Isaac thinks the reason the barrier is collapsing is the monster invasion and wonders if it's the Pope's fault since the dragon is affiliated with the royal family. He figures this was expected from those slippery bastards until someone approaches and says that his little nephew can now even read the newspaper properly. Goel congratulates his nephew, saying that now he's officially ordained, while our hero thinks he's a damn bastard. Relay says that now that Isaac can speak well, he can read the Skeleton King's curse poem, but our hero thinks he should calm down. Suddenly, the patriarch enters the room calmly. He says it's great that both of them are there, but politely asks the boy to leave for a brief moment. Our hero then quietly exits the room, and the patriarch uses a special magic to ensure no sound leaves that sealed off space. Relay is surprised and asks why he'd need such a spell, and Alay says he can't trust his office 100%. He says the matter concerns Isaac. He explains that he believes Isaac was chosen by an evil god during the ordination. The patriarch continues and says that the god who chose him is certainly not normal. It's like a sigil that had never been seen before revealed itself during the ordination. And the only ones who saw this sigil were the Pope and the Golden Cardinal. But the Pope immediately tried to kill Isaac afterward. Relay is shocked by this. The man confirms it and says he shouldn't have done that unless Isaac had chosen a malevolent god. Goel says maybe it's not a malevolent god, maybe he was chosen by a god from their own house. And Riley is surprised, wondering if it's the god of golden faith. He says those people hate when others get involved with what they consider theirs. If Isaac was chosen by the same god, they wouldn't take it well. He adds that if the Pope reacted that way, Isaac must have been chosen by a god that the Golden House had already claimed. And he says it might even be a god who had never chosen anyone until now. And Relay says that's possible. The patriarch asks if he's saying the child chose that god, but Goel says absolutely not. He orders Goel to get in contact with the Pope's house and find out which god reached out to Isaac. He'll give a relic to Shuri if he succeeds, and says that from now on, until Isaac begins practical training, they must take special care of him. He comments that if Isaac has the same result in the faith test as last time, something bad will probably happen. He'll end up becoming a dark priest. Goel thinks that if he turns into one of those, the entire house will be branded as traitors. Everyone will face trouble and be imprisoned for conspiracy. Relay is horrified at the thought. The patriarch says firmly that they need to stop that at all costs. Then the young man explains that his nephews will begin practical training soon. Relay says they were hazed a lot by their seniors back in the day, but that's in the past now. Our hero thinks this sounds like military enlistment. He explains they'll be working with their upperclassmen during a training, and through it, they'll find their specialties and learn what a priest actually does. He finishes by saying they'll make their contract with their god when this period ends, and our hero says that sounds good. He asks if that means they'll be ready to participate in the offering ceremony, and Relay asks if he's interested in the offerings. Isaac says he's very interested, especially in the part about executing the Skeleton King's subordinates. Relay says his uncle is very happy to see how much he's grown in his faith, then asks to explain something to him. He says that in this ceremony, they make offerings to the gods and celebrate, but more importantly, the ceremony is about their feelings and faith. He asks them to reflect on this, saying the ceremony is essentially a ritual for the gods in which they all worship together. He adds that the ceremony is similar to a festival, and Isaac wonders if he means that angels and lesser gods participate, thinking he wants to meet them. Relay says Isaac is eager to execute the minions himself, and that a bit of righteous hostility is necessary. Goel says that the team with the best grades gets the privilege of executing the minions, so he tells Shuri to do his best, and our hero is surprised to learn it's in a team. He doesn't seem too happy with the idea of being in a team. Relay says he wants both of them to get good grades and achieve their dreams. Then Isaac tells his uncle that he understands, and thinks there's nothing that can be done. Excited, he decides he'll kill a few and rescue the rest, and says he'll do his best. Relay thinks this adorable child could never become a dark priest. Goel gets a bit tense and tells Isaac about the ordination, asking which god chose him. That seems to catch our boy by surprise, but he replies that he doesn't remember, and that it was a sigil so disgusting it made him nauseous. Relay imagines his nephew as a dark priest, thinking it must have been an evil god, and comments that there are some gods with sinister-looking sigils, while Goel says it's fine because faith is what truly matters in the end. Then someone says the Golden Cardinal wants to see him, and our hero comments that he's that bastard. Suddenly, someone loudly calls out Isaac Ashua's full name, leaving both of his uncles a little surprised and uneasy. Kina Barrett calmly opens the door and says he has important matters with him. Relay asks why he's there to see Isaac, seriously worried that he came to hurt Isaac over this complicated dark priest matter. But he silently approaches and gently places his hand over Isaac's hand. Then he tells him that he honestly thought he was absolutely worthless, says he's being truthful with Isaac, While our hero wonders why this lunatic is saying that, he continues saying that now he understands he didn't show himself to the world over these past 10 years because he was training. He didn't want his abilities to be tainted, and says that during the ordination he was exceptional and beyond comparison to those other idiots. He even finds Isaac a bit scary, and the demon agrees. Kina says they should train under his grandfather's instruction and dive fully into the real goal. Tells him to take his hand, and that together they can eliminate the Skeleton King and lead the Holy Empire. Goel wonders if this could be a new form of bullying coming from the Pope, but realizes it's serious and that the current conditions are terrifyingly good. But in the next moment, our hero tells him to leave him alone. Not understanding at all, Kina asks what's wrong, but Isaac says he'll continue with his practical training, while Shuri thinks he's really crazy. Kina tries to explain that he doesn't need to worry about the priest qualifications, that he'll take his 10 years of experience into account. But our hero says it doesn't matter, saying if he wants someone, he should take the other one in his place, pointing to Shuri. But Kina says the two of them are different, and our hero confirms he's not wrong, while Shuri gets irritated, thinking they're both idiots. He adds that the boy has enough talent to repel monsters just with his gaze. The observer says he must have seen Isaac intimidate a monster just by looking at it, and our hero thinks that's all he wants, to learn that. He thinks it only makes him want to refuse even more, and that just thinking about being tortured by the Pope makes him feel sick. Then, horrified, Kina asks if he's trying to say his grandfather is someone who would make someone vomit just by seeing him. While he tries to say that's exactly it, and that he would do something unpleasant with his head, someone covers his mouth, and in the next moment pulls him out of that room at absurd speed, leaving everyone there confused. Finishing with, "My grandson is busy." The patriarch restrains that boy, preventing him from saying more nonsense, and says he doesn't want him near their child. She says that even if he's the patriarch of the Azures, but the man cuts her off, saying that if he wants to spend time with him, explains that Isaac will pass on his bad influence to him, and Kina doesn't seem to understand that concern. Quite irritated by the situation, our hero thinks the Ishua are bastards, and that he'll definitely bring them all to ruin. The Pentagon, this is the test that all trainee priests must go through. White, gold, azure, black, and red. This is the order in which they'll be tested, and the cardinal of each of those faiths will conduct the test. Isaac thinks that everyone must pass this test to become an official priest. He walks through the corridors, wondering if that's where his group will be. He knows they group 30 children with similar faith or origin, and he wonders if they're trying to spark a faction war, and thinks that sending Shuri ahead of him to the school is paying off, while remembering him saying the group has many of his friends. He'll use those bastards to pass the Pentagon test and save his minions, and that first he needs to make a good impression, then someone says he's here. Then they add to tie up that bastard. One of the boys asks if he's the one who's been bullying Shuri all these years, and another says their seniors need to teach him some manners. One then says to think of it as just a little prank, and that he'll be dead if he tells Shuri about it. The annoyed hero thinks these boys are useless. Isaac grabs that thing, while the boy says they're just getting to know each other. The boys start laughing, saying he's using a blender, and comment that they heard he was a baby just recently, so it must be true. While one of them says to just hang him somewhere, our hero smashes him straight in the face. The boy goes flying to the ground, while the others tense up a bit. They ask what just happened, and if that bastard is insane. Isaac says they're right. It's best if they come closer and do their best to get a good grade. With a rather sinister and intimidating look, he says they'll become true best friends, and in that specific moment, everyone clearly realizes the kind of trouble they'd gotten into. Shuri says maybe he didn't understand Isaac correctly, and out loud he asks if this is really the team-building exercise. Desperately, one of the boys asks if that strange kid is part of Shuri's family, and the boy simply thanks them politely for entertaining his cousin, while they scream in panic, begging for urgent help. Shuri says the first test is based on their harmony as a team, and asks what Isaac is plotting. Then our hero replies, harmony. He asks if he doesn't see that pyramid, and questions how anything could be more harmonious than that, but Shuri says that's not really what it means. Then Isaac says it doesn't matter and tells him to look at that, while the boy asks what it is. He explains that it's a list of the bastards trying to leech off him. He says those bastards took advantage of him for the past 7 years, and even knowing House Eshua expects nothing in return, it still feels like abuse. One of the boys says the Ishuas don't need anything from them, and nothing they offer could be useful. Isaac asks if really there's nothing, but says all their organs and body parts are fresh. He adds that he's not asking much from them, calling them friends, and all he wants is a healthy relationship where you give as much as you take. So this group will work diligently and responsibly, maintaining the purity of their hearts. With that slightly bizarre look, he asks if they understood, and smiling, he asks if they're not going to answer him, so the boys respond in unison that it's all good. Then he climbs down from there, saying their team will be built on top of these things. Shuri asks what will happen if they fail the test, but Isaac says there's something he wants to show Shuri, asking him to follow. He says that if they get a bad grade, they'll fail, since the first score is based on group harmony, but our hero says he has a plan, so don't worry. Excitedly, he asks him to take a quick look at this, and inside there's a person completely tied up, crying nonstop. Shuri is deeply horrified by that terrible sight. He screams in desperation, asking what that bastard is doing, and says that's the son of a distant uncle, and Isaac says that's exactly the problem. he's in their group. He also says that the boy had an old letter saying he would stop spying on him. Shuri just stands there, staring in disbelief at the silent boy. Then he slowly pulls off the gag that was tightly bound around his mouth. Shuri says it was Nizer who put him up to all of this, and the boy apologizes, calmly saying he couldn't do anything about it, and that he had his own personal reasons. Isaac says he doesn't care, and asks him to tell what Nizer wanted him to do. The boy says he asked him to make sure the Ishua group would fail, and says Nizer told him that Shuri would accept most requests because of the test, and told him to ask for ridiculous things until the group fell apart. He explains that his hostility toward Isaac when he arrived was because Nizer ordered him to do that, since he wants to kill the Skeleton King's minions. Isaac thinks about Nizer Sepet, and realizes he didn't just show hostility toward him, he wants to kill his minions. So he decides he needs to teach him a lesson. A few days later, someone yells that he won't do that again. Nizer, irritated, shouts asking how hard spying must be, and asks how many of them have already left the group by now. Then the boy explains that they're doing group exercises, and the red-haired boy gets annoyed. That boy says fine, and tells him to get out of his way. Another person says not to worry about it because there are 3 loyal people to him in that group, and they'll handle it. Nizer thinks that something about that brat bothers him, and that he needs to get rid of him quickly. The fact that his father showed interest in the boy bothered him a lot, and he can't believe he invited Isaac to his house. Standing up, he thinks it doesn't matter, it'll all be over after today, because the Dan Eshuas will be out today. A voice welcomes them to the harmony of the Pentagon, and says that white faith will guide miracles through their voice. But in the end, the relationship between companions is harmony and faith. Then the theme of the first Pentagon, which is harmony, will be tested through a vote. And if even one group member votes against keeping the team together, they will all fail, and the one who voted that way will be relocated to another team. He realizes that even those who vote against the Azures can continue in the exam. Nizer thinks he still has spies on his side, and that he will definitely fall.
Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.